Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls alike. Let's first of all tell you my name is Sid Padrick. That's spelled P-A-D-R-I-C-K, as you probably know by now. And that's an unusual spelling. I'm not going to tell you I'm an unusual person, however. This incident is the only unusual thing about it. And why it happened and how it happened, I don't really know. I know partly how it happened, but not why it happened. So we'll tell you just the way it happened, and I hope everyone hears it just the way it was told to me. As Mr. Goodman indicated, there's a lot of things leading up to this incident, starting back perhaps 10 years ago. But what showed mostly was during the month of January. We had some very unusual happenings around our house, which I cannot discuss with you, but you will know eventually what they were, I'm sure. And we had some very unusual patterns followed during the month of January. I will tell you this, dating back about 2 years. I'm a radio amateur, and I love my operation very good, and I operate amateur radio every day. I'm also a private pilot. It shows on that folder ex-pilot, but I am an ex-pilot, but I'm also a holder of a private pilot license at the moment. I don't think this, however, relates to this incident in any way whatever. At least I don't see that it does. For the last 2 years, however, before January 30th, I had the darndest urge to keep going to the beach. I went down almost every day without fail. I'd get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'd get up at 1 o'clock, and I'd either operate my amateur radio or go to the beach, one of the two. I didn't go to the beach as much as I operated my amateur radio because normally I would not walk down at night if it was raining, but I have in the daytime many, many times. I've donned my raincoat and gone down and thought nothing of it. I hope everyone can hear back there because it's quite a distance for an old ex-Air Force man to try to produce a voice that far back. Anyway, during the month of January was no different than any other month for the last 2 years. I had a real strong urge to go to the beach every day during the month of January, and many times I walked down during the rain. On the night of January 30th, however, it was actually Friday night, the 29th, until midnight, and I dated this January 30th because the incident took place at 2 o'clock in the morning. Now, I know 2 o'clock in the morning sounds like an unusual time for a guy to be at the beach because a lot of bars close about that time, dance halls close, movie theaters close, and all the like. However, let me tell you this, I do not go to bars. Not one person in this country can prove that I've been in a bar in the last 10 years. And that's as far as I'll go back with this story. I think that's far enough. I'd hesitate to go back further than that because it deals into a little different form of life. Not one person can prove I've ever been in a drive-in theater because I never have. I don't know why, I just don't care for a drive-in theater. I didn't say they're sinful or anything like that. I do not watch television. I don't know why, I just don't care for it. I have no reason to say that, but I just don't watch it. It holds no interest for me. I like all kinds of sports. I like all outdoor activities, and I'll go to them in the rain, sleet, snow, whatever comes. But I will not sit in front of a television and watch them. On the night of January 30th, or rather the morning, I'm going to state this, the morning of January 30th, because that's actually when it took place. The greatest event took place in my life that has ever happened. Now, I can tell you lots of things that's happened since then, but they're really insignificant because the story itself is what I'm going to tell you in a little while. Starting on January 30th, however, I had a complete change of life and a different attitude in what I had always thought and believed. I will tell you this, that I have always felt in my own mind that we're nothing but a little tiny speck out here in this universe of ours, and I've thought that ever since I was very little. I have gone down on the beach at night with my boys and stayed overnight and laid down in the sand in a sleeping bag with the gnats and mosquitoes. I beg your pardon, we don't have them at the fellow beach. Well, whatever's down there, I've laid down in the sand and looked up in the heavens, and I said, gee, what is up there? I'd like to know. I've often thought this. I've thought it ever since I was a little tiny fellow. I've always said that there must be somebody up there other than people on this earth. I will not lose that attitude. On the morning of January 30th, that was proven to me, because 9 people appeared in my presence and presented themselves in a gentlemanly manner, talked in a gentlemanly manner, and left. There's only one thing I'm going to mention about those people at this time. You can ridicule me, you can throw eggs at me, tomatoes, whatever you like. You can go out when you leave here and say the guy is a liar, he's a fake, call me whatever you like. But when you speak of those people, I do hope when you speak of them, you'll speak of them with respect, just like I have for them. Because they presented themselves very gentlemanly. They left accordingly. They did not do us any harm. They have no intentions of doing us any harm, now or never. I think it was very much of a fortune for me to meet them. However, I do not know why. I have told everybody the same thing, and I'll tell you that on that morning of January 30th, that was this year incidentally, 1965, there was a puzzle laid down in front of me consisting of 100 pieces. So far, 97 of those pieces are put together. There are 3 to go, and I think maybe within a year or so we will have the other 3 put together. I say we because I'm not the only one working on this. Because from the day this incident happened, or rather not the day it happened, but shortly afterwards when it was discovered that it happened to dear old Sid, I started getting a rash of phone calls. I started getting visits by many notables throughout the country. And a strange current of events took place, and they are still taking place, which I cannot explain. I think when I tell you the full story, maybe you will have some of the answers, but I cannot give them to you at this time. First of all, because before this incident took place, I knew nothing about flying saucers. I only knew what I had read in the newspapers. I had never read an account of a person being contacted. I only read his sketches just once in a while, just like anybody else would read. And I had taken no specific interest in the subject. I knew very little about it. So when this happened to me, it was a total surprise and pretty much of a shock. I have no way to explain it as to why it happened. Secondly, I have no education, or very little education. I just have a high school education, that's all. I thought if these people should contact somebody, they should either contact a woman who could go out and talk about it all day long, or somebody with about 10 degrees who could elaborate on it. But maybe that's why they don't. I will not elaborate on the story. I'll tell you just the way they told me, and that's it. I will say it for word what they said, and I will not change one word of it to satisfy anybody. Now, in these people who visited me, I had all kinds of notables. I had a rash of ministers, although Mr. Goodman didn't come down and see me. I talked to him a couple of times on the telephone. I had notables from throughout the country, but the most outstanding part was that ministers consisted of about 40% of the people who came to talk to me about it. They would take this report, just the way I had originally written it, and read it over and make their comments. And some of them had some fine comments to make. Some of them would tell me what they thought was the reason these people would contact a person like me. I'm sure glad they clarified it because I didn't know. In fact, I still don't know. I don't know if I'll accept their answers or not. Now, when the Air Force came along, they had a little different attitude. They said, now, Mr. Padrick, you've told us this story. It's going down on record, just like we tell you it's going down on record. And you'll be given a documented proof of it. So if you choose to go out and tell about it, be prepared for one thing. you will suddenly become a subject of ridicule, public punishment, and you will receive egg throwing, you will receive tomatoes, you will receive everything if you go out and discuss this. I was not about to mention it, not for that reason, but for other reasons. But it has not gone that way. Not one person has come to my house yet and disputed this story in any manner. I've had several high-up newspapermen come to see me, and they don't come to try to disprove it. They try to get more information about it. That seems to be the general opinion of everyone who's contacted me so far on it. I've had calls from all over the country. Radio networks have taped me on the East Coast, hours at a time. I'm sure glad they were paying the telephone bill because mine gets pretty ridiculous at times, even when I'm only involved in this thing slightly as I am. I have been contacted by a lot of scientists throughout the country, and they question it in the sense that they want to know more about it. They want to know more about the technical aspects of it, and what I can tell them that would be of help to them in trying to develop this means of propulsion. But I am sorry I am no help to them, unfortunately. Now, my family and I've been married for 22 years to the same woman. I have 3 sons, 12, 14, and 16. One of them is in Sacramento with me now, although he's not here attending this tonight, because he's heard it about 100 times, and I think he's pretty well briefed it where he could go out and tell it just like I can tell it. At first, I hated to tell my family because we're in a very well-respected community. I know a lot of people there, and a lot of people know me. At first, I thought I would not have a friend left if I should go out and reveal this. And at first, I wasn't about to go out and reveal it. However, something told me to reveal this. I don't know what. I don't know why I did it. But I am sure I was inspired to do so. My family at first wouldn't accept it. Because, first of all boys are in school, and they figured once they got back down at school, they'd be laughed clear out of the schoolyard and sent back home. But it did not go that way either. Instead, all the boys got an invite for me to go down and talk to the schools about this immediately. And I did. I enjoyed those talks because it dealt with young people in the ages 12 to 20 years old, and they were all very interested. I think they asked me some real good and important questions about this incident. I have been asked a multitude of questions which did not occur in this 2 hours of stay on that craft. One like this, for instance, which I'm sure you enjoy hearing, and that is, do I think these people are robots? No, I don't think they were robots because they were in flesh just like you and me. All 9 of them, I saw them. I only talked to one, however. I've also been asked if I thought they were angels. I said no because I know of no reason why angels would visit me, and I don't. Here again, I might tell you this. My belief has been one thing ever since I was young. I'll tell you a few things about my belief, and then I'll elaborate on that statement I just made. First of all, from the day my boys were big enough to talk and understand, I have told them one thing in life, one thing primary. That is to don't take anything that doesn't belong to them. Keep their hands clean. Do not destroy another man's property. That's number 1. Number 2, which I think is equally important, and that is to have respect for each and every person they meet, irregardless of his age, color, race, character, or creed, no matter who he is or who she is, until at such time that person gives them reason to not respect them. Those are 2 things my boys today will very closely adhere to because they've been taught that. If everybody thought the same way that I do about destroying another man's property, everyone in this room could go away, leave their houses and go away for 2 or 3 weeks, and come back and find it cleaned up when they get back. And if they left $1 out on the dresser someplace, they'd find 10 cents for interest because they left it there by mistake. That's my way of belief in this world. Now, whether or not this had anything to do with this incident, I cannot say. I just wish I had those other three parts of the puzzle put together so I could explain it to you. Now, speaking of friends, down in this community we live in, which is a community of around 1,200 people, we have in that small community lawyers, doctors, scientists, ministers. We have several ministers, in fact. Some retired, some still active. We have one living about a block from me who's still active. He's been in the ministry 35 years. He was one of the first to come and visit me. People who've been living close to us for 8, 10 years I have never met, although I've seen them. They'd come to my house and knock on the door. They'd say, Mr. Padrick, I'm so-and-so. That was quite an incident you had. I think it was marvelous. We're glad to see it happen. Now, why would people do this when you've never met them before and they've lived 2 or 3 blocks from you? I don't think anyone can answer that. I say again that not one person has come to my house and ridiculed me over this or said in any manner they didn't believe it. But I'm going to tell you this. I don't care what your belief was yesterday. I don't care what it is tonight. And I don't care what it will be tomorrow. Because I didn't come here to tell this to make you believe it or to try to make you believe it. I come to tell you because I was invited to tell you. On the other hand, I have not made one talk up to now that I volunteered to give. Every talk I have given has been strictly by invite. Neither have I ever set a fee for such as this. Every cent that I have collected for such as this has been strictly a donation from the group involved. I am not going to ask for a fee. I think that would destroy the benefit of it. Now, I might tell you something else. I have never been a public speaker. And if somebody had told me a year ago I'd be up here speaking to you tonight, I'd have probably run him out of my house because I wouldn't have believed it. I didn't want to be a public speaker, and I still don't. I'm only doing this because it was requested that I do it. I have nice people like Mr. Goodman back of it. I have to refer to him because I like Mr. Goodman in a lot of ways, and we have a lot in common. He believes about the same way about the universe that I do. At least I think so from talking with him this afternoon. I might tell you this, that on the night of, or rather the morning of January 30th, in proving to me that these other people existed, it proved to me one thing, that there's a lot more to look forward to than what we have here on this earth. I say that from the way these people came, the way they presented themselves, and the way they left. If there's reincarnation, I hope that I go where they came from, because from what they tell me how they live, I'm certain that we'll never equal it. At least while I'm living here, we won't. I'd like to see us equal it, but I don't think it can be done under our present day of living conditions and the way we think, talk, and act. I have always said there's only one way to to eliminate fighting, and that is to kill everybody but one person. But that isn't a very easy thing to do. I've also said there's only one way 2 people can keep a secret. Kill one of them. Now, I could have kept this secret. In fact, I had planned on keeping the secret, not even telling my wife. But as I say, something inspired me to tell this, and I don't know what. And I'm going to tell it the way it happened. I hope everyone's had dinner, because we will try to get you home for breakfast. I said we'll try. I didn't say we would. Now, when this thing happened, I thought of one thing in the Bible. It said, Christ said in one of his return trips, that he says, "In my Father's house there are many mansions. I come to prepare a place for you." Now, whether or not I am prepared to go, I don't know, but I am ready. I might not be prepared, but I am ready. I will tell you what I mean by that. Since this incident took place, I have no fear. I have no fear at all. I lost all fear. I don't know whether I lost it because of that or not, but I think I did. I can go out on the street now and drive down the road, even though I see about 400 cars aiming at me, I fear not. And that's an everyday thing nowadays out on the highways. People don't drive the cars, they aim them. Not in Sacramento, though. I think the drivers up here are pretty good. At least that's what I found, and I found very nice weather for the last 2 days, by the way. Amazingly good from what past experience I've had in this part of the country. I don't know why I don't fear anything at all. That's another thing that's unexplainable, but I have no fear for anything. I'll go out at my house at night and walk the beach anytime, whether it's raining, snowing, sleeting, whether there's a bunch of kids down there raising the devil, want to cut my throat. I still don't fear. I'll walk right down there with them, pay no attention to them. I might run from them if they tried to catch me, but I'd still not fear about going down there. I have no hatred for anyone. I like everyone equally. I'd just soon have a colored man in my house. I'd just soon have a Japanese or a Chinese. It wouldn't make a bit of difference to me who he was, what his color, race, or creed was. Because I think everybody is created equal, and I think everybody leaves this earth equally. You come and you go. That's two things that you are going to do on this earth. That's a foregone conclusion. That is not your plans, but it's somebody else's plans. I think that fearing death is one thing that should be the least of a person's worries right now. I think a person who will fear death will fear living as well. There's a reason I say that, which I'm going to tell you in this story. These people, when they came, they proved to me that you do not need to fear death. This is why I no longer have any fear for anything. Now, during this 2 hours of stay on that craft, I think I learned about as much as anyone could learn. I'm not so sure I did, but I feel that I did. I don't know if anyone could have learned any more or not. I asked the question, and I was told that no one could have learned any more about 2 minutes before I got off the craft. If anyone wishes to go on a craft, though, I have one suggestion to make, and that is don't stand out and wait and watch for one, because I'm sure these people won't pick you that way. I think whoever they pick, they're going to pick you at the most unexpected time, just like they did me, and scare the devil out of you. And if you still stay with them, you'll get invited aboard. I might point this out. These people were not hostile. They had no intention of being hostile then, now, or never. This is what they pointed out to me. Everything this gentleman said to me, it was in an inviting manner. He did not order me to do one thing. At no time did he pass an order along to me. Now, I might speak briefly upon one attitude in this situation, which you'll no doubt hear about sooner or later, then I'm going to get into the details of the encounter. I am fairly certain that most of you have heard of the organization NICAP. That means National Investigating Committee for Aerial Phenomena. They got to me real fast after this incident took place. I didn't at first want to give them an interview, but they insisted on it, and I did let them come on down and spend 5 hours with them. Now, I'm going to tell you my opinion of NICAP. I am not going to criticize them. I'm only giving you my opinion. NICAP came down and got this account, and they left. But upon leaving, the gentleman, the secretary of it, said, "Now, Mr. Padrick, we'd like to believe your story. It's very true. I mean, it's hard not to believe, but we don't believe it for one thing." He says, "You didn't bring anything back with you as proof that you were on that craft." And I said, "Well, I brought myself back." He said, "Yeah, but we don't know you were there." I said, "Well, go contact those people. They'll tell you I was there." He said, "Well, who are they and where are they from? We'll go and contact them." So I said to Mr. Cerny, "If you were on that craft, you wouldn't have brought anything back either." And I told him why he wouldn't have. It's obvious he wouldn't have, because in the first place, they told me I could not touch anything on that craft without their permission. Secondly, when he said he didn't believe it, I said, well, if you didn't, why didn't you tell me at 9 o'clock and I would have gone home and spent my evening with my family without spending 5 hours down here with you? He said, well, we did want the story. Now, in that story, I want to tell you some of the things that happened, and you will be hearing about them, I'm sure. As I say, I don't care what Mr. Cernet's belief is. I don't care what anybody's belief is. I only know what I saw and what I had said to me and what I said to that gentleman. I have been told recently, and I've even heard a taping over the telephone a gentleman phoned me about. I am misquoted so many times in that particular tape that it's really a funny thing. I can't see why this would happen. I think they are trying to prove it didn't happen rather than prove it did happen. But as I say, I don't care what they prove. I have nothing to gain, I have nothing to lose by telling the story. I might have something to gain if I tell it the way it happened. I'm sure I don't have anything to lose. Now, a gentleman called me just, I think, Thursday afternoon and played a piece of tape to me of a quotation that one of the nightcap men had said at a meeting. And he said one of the darndest things I have ever heard that I had said in my original consultation with them. And I did not say any such a thing. He said in the first place that I said that I had reached up and cut the rim around the craft. And I said, how did I do it when it was 15 feet high? He said again, I told the group down there that every chair on the craft had bolted, it was bolted to the floor. I have never made such a statement. They had several things on that tape which I have never said. Now, as I say, I don't care what they put on that tape. And I also had a piece of tape played to me that they said was my voice. And my wife said, good heavens, if that was his voice, I'd divorce him. That's what she said when she heard it played over the telephone. We both listened to it. Why these things are taking place, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. However, after I tell you the story, that what happened, you formulate your own opinion. That's all I'm going to tell you at this time. I will now show you the chart which I have made up, if you'll excuse me one moment while I pull off my coat and relax a little bit and pull my charts out. The Sacramento weather, you know. I'm not an artist. Just like I'm not a speaker, I'm not an artist. Now, on morning of January 30th, this incident took place, which I consider the greatest incident of my life in my 45 years of living. I am going to show you just the way it happened. This was my first impression. Now, I did not draw this picture. I can't draw that good. I had gone to the beach and was returning home. This craft was in the area. I had no way of knowing what it was, where it came from, or even what it looked like at first. The only reason I knew something was in the area was because the noise was appearing, and I could not tie it in with an aircraft or anything that I could see. I would say this was about 3 minutes after 2, the best I can recall. The noise I was hearing was an unusual noise in the sense that I had never heard it before. At least I didn't think I had. This is what drew my attention to the sky. The noise was some kind of a droning-like noise, which I would call similar to a large power transformer, something on that order. I can't be sure because I'd never heard it before. At first, I didn't pay too much attention to it. But as I started to walk up a little bank, which I had to go back over to the railroad tracks and go back home, I guess I was about 10 feet from the bank, and I looked up into the sky to associate this once more with an aircraft, and I spotted it. And I want to tell you what I did. I went that way. ran up the bank. I stumbled and fell and finally did gain entry to the railroad tracks. And I stood there and watched this craft. However, before he came down, and I would say when I first spotted it, he was probably a quarter-mile offshore, and it appeared to be coming my way. Before he came down, a voice came from this craft that said, "Do not be frightened, we are not hostile." His voice was very plain. I say his voice because it sounded like a male voice. It was very plain, easily spoken, easy to understand, and I thought it was coming from that general direction. He came on down to about 20 feet, just hovered, and I'm standing on the railroad tracks for this time, shaken about half to death, wondering what am I looking at? What is this thing, and who are they, where are they from? And also what in the world I'm doing there looking at it. As he hovered about 20 feet over ground, another voice came from the craft and said, "Don't be frightened, we are not hostile, we assure you of no harm." That was the second voice I had heard from the craft. I didn't know if he was talking to me or who. I was the only one around, at least I thought I was. So I stood and watched it. I think I did the same thing anybody else would have done, under the same conditions. I got more curious than I did afraid at this time. He just sat there for a little while, I'd say about 30 seconds to a minute, and another voice came from the craft. It says, "You may come aboard." Now this, I want to point out, he said, "You may come aboard." He did not order me to come aboard. I still didn't know if he was talking to me or not, and I watched this. He came on down to the ground, to a foot, I'd say about a foot off the ground, and a flash occurred that lit up the whole parking area. Now, incidentally, this did not take place out on the beach. It took place on a small parking lot between my house and the beach, but it overlooks the ocean. And I would imagine that about 300 cars could be parked in that little area, and this flash lit that whole area. Now, I will tell you at this time that I have pictures of that flash. I will show them to you eventually because I have other pictures I want to show too. They're in color where this flash occurred on the ground. I did not give them to the Air Force because if I had, I would have never gotten them back, I am told. Now, when that flash occurred, it was very alarming. More than alarming because it scared the daylights out of me. I started to walk down towards the craft from the railroad tracks where I'd been standing, and I guess I got about 20 feet within the craft, or from the craft, looking at it, just wondering what in the world it's doing there. And the fourth and final voice came from the craft, and it said this time, "You may come aboard. We are not hostile. We assure you of no harm." And I still didn't know if he was talking to me or who. I did find out very soon, however. He was talking to me because I elected to go aboard. I didn't know what I was listening to. It sounded like a person's voice. Everything was fine. The noise had died down by this time. As I approached the craft to within about 15 feet or maybe 10 feet, I can't be sure, a door opened almost directly in front of me, and this is the first time I'd seen any lights of the craft. This is what I was looking at as I approached the craft. It was plenty dark, and that thing looked plenty large and plenty mean. I did get up courage enough to step inside of it. Why, I'll never know. My wife says, "What in the world did you get inside that thing for?" She says, "You know better." Well, maybe I knew better, but still I got inside of it. As I got inside that craft, one of the most frightening things happened I have ever had happen to me in all my life. Just as I stepped up inside and cleared this door, it closed just like that back of me. It left me standing within a little compartment about 6 by 7 feet, and the brights in this compartment the lights got so brilliant I could not watch them. I don't mean just bright, I mean extremely bright. I could not watch them, and I put my hands over my eyes. I estimated that I had been in the room about 1 minute, This is the best I can tell, about 1 minute. And another voice invited me to go ahead in. It says, you may enter. At that time, I didn't know if I was going to meet a little man, green man from Mars. I didn't know if I was going to meet a monster. I didn't know who I was going to meet. And I was plenty scared. I want you to know now I was plenty scared. I did get up courage enough to start walking forward. This is just a little different view. I did not draw that. I cannot draw that nicely. This is the room I was standing in when the lights got so brilliant I could not watch them. This door opened and I advanced. I got into about this spot and stopped because I couldn't go any further anyway. I don't know what caused me to look to the right, but I looked to the right and a gentleman was standing approximately this spot. Now let me tell you one strange incident that took place just as I looked around and saw him. At this time, and when I left the craft to go back home, was the only time this gentleman looked at me face to face. At no other time during this 2 hours did he look me straight in the face. He always looked at me from the side like this, but never straight in my face. Why, I don't know. He looked at me and stood there for about 10 or 15 seconds and said, you may follow me. He turned around and went into this room. In there, he said, this is my room. He did not say, I'm the boss of this craft. I am the commander. He didn't say anything like that. He said, this is my room. That's all he said at the moment. I guess he could see that I was so scared I wasn't listening anyway, very closely. I might tell you one thing about this chart. I drew these in different colors so people in the audience could see better, and also these seats are out of proportion so people can see them better in the background. They were not quite very large. Standing there, one of the very first things he said to me was, he said, we can speak any language, but I am the only one on this craft who can speak your language. Now, mind you, he did not say English. He said language. I assume what he meant by that they could speak any language in the universe. He also said, you may ask any question you like. But you know something? He didn't make any mention of whether or not he'd answer them. He just said I could ask them. This was quite outstanding because later he didn't answer some of the questions I asked him. Standing there, I don't know how long I'd been standing there before I even realized what I was doing and got courage enough to start asking questions. I started out asking questions like this, which were very silly and to the point. I said, where are you from? I said, who are you? Are you human? Are you like us? He started telling me. First of all, he told me where he was from. I'll tell you just the way he said it, and this is one thing that people have told me I should not say, but I'm still going to tell you the way he said it. He says, we are from a planet in back of a planet which you observe, but you do not observe us. Now, I didn't know just how to take that because I didn't know enough about the universe to discuss it with him, and I still don't. But I can tell you one thing, I have a real nice chart sent to me by the students, a group of students at the University of California at Berkeley, and they show me that they know of several planets existing that we do not observe. So this gentleman could have been from either one. I said, are you human? He said, yes, in our own way. I said, do you eat? And he said, yes, in our own way. I said, do you sleep? He said, yes, in our own way, but not as you know it. We relax for long periods of time. And he did not tell me what a long period of time was, and I'll tell you later just what he meant by time. Because he explained to me later that time meant nothing to them. They do not measure time and distance like we do in terms of daylight and darkness or miles. They measure everything in terms of light. Period. I asked him, do you live like us? At this time he said, yes, in our own way, but I will tell you later. He did not tell me at this time. And he did tell me later, which I will tell you about when I come to that spot. Since he had said that we can speak any language, I said to him, you said we. When you said you could speak any language, I said, are there others on this craft? And he said, yes, there are 8 others. I said, will I get to see them? And he said, yes, later. Now, I might describe how this gentleman talked. Every question I asked him, he took about 30 seconds to answer it. But it was very explicit, to the point. He did not falter. He made no mistake. He spoke just as plain as anyone I have ever heard. And to the point. Whether he did that for my benefit, I don't know. He might have known I didn't have much of an education, so he had to speak in a level that I could understand. Now, whether or not he was interpreting it, I don't know. It's been said that it's possible that someone was interpreting it for him, and he had to receive it back and tell me what the answer was. There's been several theories brought forward on this particular subject. Now, I might tell you this, though, that when he volunteered something, he did not take 30 seconds to tell me. He would start right out and continue clear through with it until he finished talking. Only when I asked him a question did he pause for 30 seconds, or close to 30 seconds. In standing there with this gentleman, I want to tell you, at first I thought I was dead. Because when I ran up the bank from the craft, I stumbled and fell, and I remembered that I fell awfully hard. And I thought maybe I had died laying there, and this was just my spirit going inside that craft. But I soon began to realize that I wasn't dead. I was even beginning to feel myself all like this. Pretty soon I said, well, it must be me standing here. It's somebody. It looked like me anyway. And he looked like a man standing there beside me. So I had no choice but to think he was man, and I was standing there with him. Anyway, when I got out of the craft, I walked back up the hill where I had stumbled and fell, and incidentally, my knee hurt me for about 2 weeks. He didn't cure it. It didn't hurt while I was on the craft, but it hurt for about 2 weeks later. I don't know how long I'd been on the craft. I'd say probably 15 minutes or so, because everything went very slow to start with. I didn't have the slightest idea what to ask him or how to even get started. But about 15 minutes after I was on the craft, he told me one of the most shocking things I had ever heard. Without asking, he said to me, we are now moved. And I says, oh, well, where are we? I says, I felt no movement. Where did we move to? He told me where we were. He told me in a sense where we were. He said that we were parked on a mountainside in a large spot used by a large house trailer in the summertime, but not used in the wintertime, and we could not be seen from this spot. So I'm standing there with this gentleman saying, well, how in the world did you get here? How do you come in here and pick me up like this? How do you move around and do all these things without being seen? I indicated to him, I even told him we had a large radar system about 8 airline miles up on the hill back of me on Mount Unum, which is between my house and San Jose, almost line of sight between myself and San Jose. In fact, we could see that radar system at night. We could see the tower. So I asked him how could he move around like this without being seen, and he told me. He told me their craft was constructed of 2 separate hulls. The first hull, or the outer hull, being a protective covering only to eliminate any substance from getting into their equipment and damaging it. He said, secondly, the inner hull was an energy collector, but would not reflect as we knew it. I think what he meant by reflect as we knew it was it would not reflect radar signals. He did not elaborate, and I did not ask him. In fact, I didn't ask him to elaborate on anything. I didn't feel free to do so. I felt that I was at his command and not him at my command. Because of one thing, he had asked me to stay on his right when I got in that room with him. He did not make any motion to advance. We stood in this one spot for quite a while. And I asked small, insignificant questions, but I will not tell you all of them here. I'm sure they'll come up at the end. I've got a lot better things to tell you than some of those things I asked him. I might tell you this, too. I've been asked a multitude of questions as to why I didn't ask him this and that. 2 hours doesn't allow you too much time to do anything. 2 hours isn't very long with anybody. And I was asking him questions which I thought I should ask, not what you should ask. See, I'm a radio amateur, and I'm a flyer, and I'm an electronics technician, and I ask him questions pertaining to this. If you were a dentist or a doctor or a minister, you'd ask him questions pertaining to that. Nothing like I asked him. I can tell you one other thing at this point. It was very obvious at all times that he did not want to know anything about me. He didn't ask me one question about me or my family or anything at any time, except he asked me when I must return home. And when he asked me that, I wanted to stay for a while, so I told him. It didn't make any difference. I was beginning to enjoy it by this time. But I think he asked that because of his benefit and not mine, because I think the hour of 4 o'clock held some significance for him, because he put me out right at 4 o'clock. Now, standing in this room, I hadn't seen very much. I had seen the room, sure. I'd looked at it thoroughly. I looked at him thoroughly. I couldn't keep my eyes off of him. Standing that close to him and realizing he was something I had never seen before, I couldn't keep my eyes off him. I don't know what I'd have done if it had been a girl. I don't have the slightest idea. Probably done the same thing I did with him, just stood and watched her. I asked him at one time, I said, I see no means of navigation on this craft. How do you navigate this ship? Incidentally, I might tell you, every time he referred to that craft that I was on and the other craft, which I'll show you in a few moments, he always referred to it as a craft. He didn't call it anything else. He always said this craft or that craft. So when I said to him, how do you navigate this craft? I don't see any chart or anything. He said, we don't. I said, well, then tell me how you get around through space if you don't navigate it. And he pointed up and said, they do. He didn't say it exactly in that manner. He said, they do. Look, all he did was step forward, up near the instrument panel. I stepped up with him, and he showed me a little opening about 6 by 10 inches in size, hanging up on the wall like this. He said, there, look. Up there, this is what I saw. Now, he called that their navigation craft. He told me that this craft did all their navigating. It furnished their power source for his craft, and it handled all communications. I asked him what means of communications did they have, and he said a system unknown to us. He did not elaborate. But he did tell me one thing. He told me I drift when I operate my radio amateur set, and I didn't know that I drifted as much as he said I did. I got to do something about that. I'll have to go crystal control, because if they're going to listen, I don't want to irritate them. I told you I have nothing but respect for these people. I will the next time they come. I asked him, incidentally, if my interest in communications had any effect on me going on this craft, and he told me no. I don't think it did either, really, because he didn't mention our means of communications. He didn't until I asked him what was their means of communications. And he said it was a system unknown to us. Now, I cannot tell you what they used, because this gentleman did not talk to anyone else on the craft that I could tell. There were 8 others on the craft. Every room we went in that was occupied, he did not speak to them. He looked at them, and they looked at us. They went about their work, whatever they were doing. The only thing I could tell that might have been communications was hand movements or facial expressions. At no time did they smile at each other. At no time did either one smile at me. They did not laugh. They did not tell jokes. However, the next time they come, I'll see if I can pull a joke on them. I might get thrown off the craft, but I don't mind pulling a good joke once in a while. Now, I asked this gentleman, how far is your planet from ours? He said, a great distance away. Then when he told me that they do not measure distance as we do and time as we do, but rather in terms of light. He also indicated daylight, days and months and weeks and miles as we do, but rather in terms of light. I asked him, would he give me a comparison between our day and mile measurement with his term of light, and he failed to do it. This is one question he did not answer. I said, how long did it take you to get here from your planet? He said, many lights. That's all he would say. I said, how fast do you travel through space? He said, our speed is limited only by the means of which we transfer our energy source. Now let me tell you what he said about his energy source. I said, how do you propel this craft? He said their energy for propulsion was supplied by this craft, and it was transferred to them through a means of a light source known to them, but not known to us. So I asked him, I was very interested in this because I would like to know how they propel that thing the way they do, as fast as they do, and the way they get around without being seen and without being heard in most cases. I asked him if he could tell me a little more about it, give me a little more understanding on it. And he only asked me one thing, which would indicate what their means of propulsion was. And that was, he asked me if I knew whether or not our scientists had ever developed a system of transferring energy by light. At the time, all I could think about was the laser beam, and I knew so little about it. I still know so little about it that I'd hesitate to talk about it. I do not like to talk on a subject which I know nothing about. I was not born a woman. No offense, of course. Excuse me one moment. I didn't have to make that remark. I've always wondered why they didn't contact a woman in this case, because, you know, the story could be going on and on every day instead of once every 2 weeks. Because I hesitate to get up and talk about it, but I think some women could talk all day long about it. Well, going on down through the questioning, I asked this gentleman a lot of questions, and I'm going to pass some of them up purposely because we're going to have a question and answer period later, and usually there's about 400 questions asked after every talk about him, where he's from, what they look like and all, but I have a picture back here showing you what he looks like. Let me size up this room for you at the moment. As I told you, he called this his room. This was a chair. The blue is a chair. The orange is some kind of a cabinet. This would be the instrument panel. And every instrument panel was on the perimeter wall, just as I've shown it here. The green indicates instrument panels. I like green because my transformers, every time my transmitters, every time I flip a switch, about 6 or 8 lights going over on the wall that indicate the thing's on. And it's in green. Anyway, this is what he called his room. I noticed 2 or 3 things about this room that were quite outstanding. First of all, the lighting was not as we see it here. I saw no direct lighting. Every bit of the lighting I saw was coming through the walls, directly through it, through every wall except the instrument panel and the floors. It was coming from every wall throughout this craft, except the instrument panel and the floors. Now, the furnishings were not in color as you see it here. His clothing was some kind of a light-colored material on the order of silk, but it was not silk, the best I could tell. It was a very high-quality looking material. And the seats were covered with approximately the same kind of material, except a little bit darker. I know because I looked at them and I sat down on them when he offered me a seat, but not at this time. There were no square corners on the craft as you see it here. I'm not an artist because I've never drawn pictures, but I had to draw this out just the way I saw it. I wouldn't want anybody else to draw this for fear they might not draw it the way I wanted it. But every corner was rounded. There, over in the corner. And I could see no places where this craft was put together. I looked at it closely. I even got up in this instrument panel, looked at it real closely. I could not see any place where it was molded together. I have a chart of the instrument panel, and it was on a slope about on this order when we stood up next to it. The instruments were quite outstanding, too, because I couldn't see anything in them. And I asked this gentleman, I said, I don't see anything in these instruments. What are they? And why aren't they lit? He says they're only lit when in use. Now, when we moved, I don't have the slightest idea where I was standing. I must have been standing in about this spot. Now, whether or not any of those instruments were lit where they could be seen, I don't know. It's possible that we moved while I was in this room. I don't think so, because I think while I was in this room, I was being debugged for my clothing. Let's rephrase that. Let's say that I think I was being purified, my clothing was being purified so I could go on their craft, because that craft was absolutely spotless everywhere I went. It was perfect throughout. And it was beautiful. This is the room I did most of the questioning. This line here indicates our path of travel, at least my path of travel. Now let me tell you something about this. You might notice this. We went counterclockwise on this craft, on this floor and also on the next floor. Counterclockwise. As we approached each door from the hallway, it opened to the left for some unknown reason. No door opened to our right. Every door was a sliding type door, and it worked just like this, and it was open or closed. Every door closed as we went through it immediately, and I mean, they didn't waste any time. I saw no movements that he made that would tell me that he was operating those doors. They all looked very automatic. Very automatic. He told me that we were going on down to the craft and see these other rooms. We went into this one, very little different than his, except it was slightly smaller. The chair on the right, the cabin on the right, just the way I've shown it here, just like his was. The only difference I could see was the instrument panel did not have as many instruments, neither were they placed the same as his. But there was a man in here standing. We came out, went into this room, same thing, almost identical to this one. The only difference I could see was the instrument panel had lesser instruments and their placement different. We came out and walked around just as you see this, and incidentally, we went through this room as I show it here, and he called this one of their relaxation rooms. It had something like a bed and a chair, and I don't know what that was, I didn't ask, and a cabinet. We came on out, went into this room. There was a man in this one. It was almost identical to this one over here. We came out and went into this one here, but this one was a much different, great deal different. This was an instrument panel that even had rolling charts of some kind on it. And I could see them moving, but I could not get up close to them and look at them. I started to advance in this room, and he stuck his hand out like this for me not to advance, and believe me, I didn't. I stayed. I didn't ask him any question about that. I didn't think he wanted me to know. We came out, and he said we were going up to the next room. Now, I might point out this. You'll notice here his room has the chair on the right, this on the right, this on the right, but over here they came to the left side as we came forward with the craft. I think maybe that must have had something to do with our means of travel in this direction, because this I would call the front of the craft. Now this was our elevator room. Now look at this chart good, and there'll be something outstanding about it. Here, for instance, his room has 2 doors in it. This room has 2 doors, but this room is offset from the rest, from these 2 rooms, the 3 rooms over here. I don't know why that was. It could have been because it had to get inside of this border. but I know that's the way we entered the room and this is the way we came out. Because I drew this picture the next morning, very early, about 6 o'clock to be exact. This was our elevator, but before we got on the elevator, he did an outstanding thing. He reached up here and opened this cabinet so fast and took out a little package of food about the size of a pack of cigarettes and said, "This is part of our food supply." He didn't give me much of a chance to look at it until he slapped it back up in there and closed the door. I don't know how he closed the door. I don't even know if he closed it or not. It could have been fully automatic. But that's the only moving thing I had seen up to this time that I could have possibly put in my pocket. And he didn't give me a chance to steal it either. It was just like that. It was all over with. He asked me to stand back here with him against the wall, which I did. And at this time, I did not know there was an elevator here. You could not see an opening on the floor where that elevator took off. I stood here with him, so we went up to the next floor. We came up just the way you see this here, the room being directly over the lower floor. Came into here, came around, came into this room, and he called this one of the relaxation rooms. It was just about the way you see it here, the bed on this side, and the chair, and the cabinet, and I don't know what this was. But these little things appeared in all relaxation rooms and elevator rooms. That's the only place I saw them, whatever they were. We came out and went into here. This was another operating type room and a gentleman in it. Came out and went into here, another gentleman in it. And up until this time, I had not seen one person sitting. Everyone was standing. And we only stayed in each one of those rooms about 1 minute, just long enough to get a good look and get out. Every time we went in the room, the gentleman would be standing here working or doing something like this, and he'd look around. He'd go back to his work, and that's all. That's all he'd do. He would not say anything. Just look at us and let us go. We came out of this room, started down this little hallway here, got down to about this spot, and he stopped. He said he was going to take me into their consultation room. This is one part I like to tell because it really holds a lot to me, and I hope it holds a lot for you as well. Because he said things in this consultation room I had never heard spoken before, and I'm sure they were not spoken by anyone on this earth. At least I don't think so. We stood in front of this door about a minute before it opened. It's the only door, in fact, it didn't open as we approached it. We stood there for about 1 minute, and it finally opened. We walked inside, stood there for maybe a minute or so, and at this point he asked me if I would like to sit down. And I told him I would, and I chose to sit in this chair. Now these chairs were not this large. I drew them large so people could see them back in the background. They're out of proportion. But I sat in this chair, and I felt the texture real nicely. Best way I could to get a good feeling of it. But I didn't rip a piece off the bottom and stick it in my pocket either. I don't think I'll try that either next time. Now, when I arose and stood back up with him, he said one of the most frightening things I have ever heard anybody say. He just stood there and said, "Would you like to pay your respects to the Supreme Deity?" When he said this, I didn't know exactly how to take it. I didn't even know if he was talking to me or not. I thought he was. He said, "Would you like to pay your respects to the Supreme Deity?" And it struck me odd that he would say Supreme Deity. I said, I couldn't picture it in my mind why he was saying this. So I said to him, "You said Supreme Deity." I said, "We have someone we call the Supreme Deity, but we call him God. Are we talking about the same thing?" All he said was, "There is only one." That's the only statement he made. There is only one. I did. I went down to the little stool. I paid my usual respects for about 2 minutes, and I got up and stood back with him. And at this time is when he chose to tell me how they lived. He started out just like this. "As you know it, we have no sickness, we have no vice, we have no crime. We have no police force. We have no schools. Our young are taught at a very young age to do a job which they do very well. Because of our long life expectancy, we have a very strict birth control. We live as one. That's what the gentleman said. When he said that, I knew he was not from this earth, because we don't live like that. At least any place I have ever lived. Sacramento might, but not where I live. If anybody would like, I'll repeat that for him, because I think it means more than just words. Did everybody get it? Would you like to repeat on it? Well, first of all, he said, as you know it. He says, as you know it, we have no sickness, we have no vice, we have no crime, we have no police force, we have no schools. Our young are taught at a very young age to do a job which they do very well. Because of our long life expectancy, we have a very strict birth control. We live as one. I want to tell you, at that time, I did not feel up to normal. I felt very bad. I failed to tell you one thing, however, what happened when I was there leaning down at the little stool. When I was leaning down there giving my usual prayer, I can truthfully tell you that's the first time in my 45 years of life I have ever felt the hand of anything greater than man on this earth. From that day on, which was January 30th of this year, I knew that I was being touched by the hand of God. That was the first time I have ever felt it. And furthermore, I have felt it ever since. Not as strong as I felt it there, but I feel it every day. I know He's with me. I know it from a physical standpoint. I know it from a health standpoint. I know it from a spiritual feeling standpoint. I know it from a lot of standpoints. I don't know why I can stand here and tell you this, but I know it. I mean, I know He's with me. I can feel it. I feel a lot different than I've ever felt before. I have not had any sleepless nights since that night. I have not been sick one day. I can go out and run the hillside and enjoy it. I go to the beach frequently, and it's an inspiration to me to walk to that beach now, more than ever. But something happened in that room to me, and I wish it would happen again. As a matter of fact, I tell everybody this same thing. I ran from this craft to start with. I ran because I was frightened, but I am no longer frightened. I wouldn't be frightened if I saw one sit down out here in this lot tonight when I go get in my car to go home. It would not frighten me one bit. I would walk right up to it and walk inside of it. In this line of thought, instead of being frightened the next time, I'll be out there waiting for him like this. But I will have about 6 cameras with me. I'll have a sleeping bag. And I'll have about a 4-week food supply. And I'll have about a dozen notebooks and a tape recorder with enough batteries to run it for a month. I will ask him if I can go and live their way of living for about a month. Now, I might tell you this, though. I'd have to get permission from my wife first. I'm boss in my family, but I have to get permission to be boss. Anyway, this gentleman, I beg your pardon, one thing here. There's something about this chart that every time I draw it and there's a minister present, there's something very outstanding about it. There's a triangle formed here. This is just the way it was presented to me, which it could mean several things. I've had several theories brought forward to me as to why this triangle would appear just as you walk inside that door. It could be the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, or the Father here, Son, and Holy Ghost here. That's one thing that was brought forward. That's all I'm going to say. I've had several theories brought forward about that, but I think that's the most important. Coming out of this room, we got out here in the hallway, and this is the point he said to me, "When must you return?" So at this time, I was beginning to feel pretty good. I wanted to stay around a while. But he didn't say anything else right then. He just asked me when I must return, and I told him it wouldn't make much difference because I was beginning to feel real good. However, we did not go in this room. We just stopped and looked inside and passed on by. Came on down to this room, the same thing. We did not go inside of it. This, however, being the last person I saw, and I think it was done for a purpose, if you think about it, he showed me a woman. At least I looked at her and said she was a woman. He didn't say she was, but I did. First of all, she had longer hair, and her clothing was slightly different. And she was built slightly different. So I had all reason to believe she was a woman. But the question is, why would he show her last? Did that mean she was not as authoritative as the rest of them? Or was because he made the statement, because of their long life expectancy, they had a strict birth control? I think in this thing they had to show me a woman because of that one statement he made. I'm assuming that's why he did it. She was doing her job, however, just like anyone else. She was standing at the instrument panel. I don't know what she was doing. They all looked like they were working one way or the other. We came on down, got on the elevator, and went back down to the lower floor, and he asked me if I would like to go outside. And I did go outside. I went outside and I looked around. I remember what I saw. I observed the place very closely because I said, if I ever see this place again, I will know it. And I will. And I think I know where it was. I have a letter from a lady who wrote me about a place which I had briefly described, and she described it in almost perfect detail to what I had originally written down. And it's about 75 miles north of Santa Rosa, up near a little place called Leggett. I am going up to see that place, and I will recognize it, yes or no, whether it's the place we landed. But if it was, it's about 180 airline miles from my residence, and I'm assuming it didn't take him more than 2 or 3 minutes to get there at maximum. So they must have a pretty fast means of travel. Now, while outside that craft, I ran my hand up and down it thoroughly. I tried to feel any kind of markings on it that might tell me where they were from or what kind of writing they used. I had seen no indication of writing up to this time. I had seen no lettering, no figures of anything that would indicate writing. None of them had any marks across their clothing like our Air Force people wear. When running my hand up and down the craft, I could only think of one thing. And also, I walked clear around that craft. I walked around and I looked down under it. I looked everywhere I could to see anything I could possibly see that might be some kind of identification. Running my hand up and down that craft, I don't know what it was made out of, but I can tell you what it felt like. It was very, very finely finished, like a real high-quality plastic or plexiglass. Now, I don't know if it was a metal, I don't know if it was plastic, I don't know if it was plexiglass. I don't know what they used. I even capped it like this. I didn't take my pocket knife out though and start scraping it off. Neither did I take a tape out of my pocket and start measuring it to see how big it was. I looked it over again to size it up like I had seen it originally to see if it was what I thought it was, and it still appeared to be about 30 feet in height and about 50 to 60 feet across, which is pretty large. Now, the ring around the middle of it was about 12 feet, the best I could tell from where I was standing. And I'd like to know how I've ever quoted saying that I reached up and touched it at 12 feet high, because I can't even touch 9 feet high. I have never said I touched that ring in the first place. When I was outside, he did not go outside with me. No one went outside. He didn't tell me when I had to return to the craft. I just went back in automatically in about 3 minutes. I went back to his room. However, the same thing happened in entering the craft the second time that did the first time. He locked me in that one room for about 1 minute, and I stood there watching the lights get real bright, and he finally let me in. I went back down to his room. In his room, I asked him several more pretty important questions, One of them was, which I'm sure you'll like to hear, I says, have you ever been here on this earth before? And he said, yes. I says, have you ever been attacked by anyone from this earth? He says, no, not this craft. So I said, has any of your craft ever been attacked? And he said, yes, they had. The navigation craft had. And I says, well, have they ever attacked anyone down here? And he said, yes, but not for purposes of destruction. This is what he told me. I said, do you have any armament on your craft? And he says, no. Not on his craft, but they did. The other craft did. I said, has anyone in this country ever attacked you? He said, no. I asked him also, would you like to, rather, if you've ever tried to establish communications or contact with our government or military agencies, and he said, no. I said, would you like to establish communications with them? And he said, no. I said, could I be of assistance to you in establishing communications or contact? And he said, no. And he went on to say, he says, your nation and all nations will attack an unknown object for purposes of destruction without cause. Now, what I think he meant without cause was because of the fact that he did not have any armament on his craft. He told me that specifically, and I did not see any. Now, he had another floor on that craft that I did not see. At least I think he had another floor, because I had estimated the height of the craft to be around 30 feet, a minimum of 30 feet, and he only took me on 2 floors, and they were about 9 feet high each. The best I could tell, about 9 feet. So that left a whole floor I did not see. Also, the center of the craft, both floors were built like this, and I did not see inside of those compartments. I don't know what was in them. He made no effort to show me, and I made no effort to ask him. However, when he told me that our nation and all nations would attack an unknown object for purposes of destruction without cause, I think he meant just what he said. Now, the Air Force's attitude, when I told them that, they frowned, went off to the side, and he says, well, there's no reason for anybody making that statement. I don't see why there isn't, because I know the Air Force has standing orders right now to shoot down one of these craft any way they can get it down, ram it, do anything they can to get it down. However, look at it from another standpoint. This gentleman came here unarmed. They came here peacefully, and they left peacefully. They have no intentions of doing anything else but that. If they wanted to harm us, I am sure they're quite capable of doing it. They came here to help us. They'll come the next time to help us. And they will not ever fight us, I am sure. Not these people. Now, I would like to know the Air Force's attitude, or anybody's attitude, when we start sending men up in our very antiquated means of traveling through space, when we start sending people around other planets. What if a barrage of shells starts coming out at them with people they don't know, never seen before? How are they going to feel? Maybe they'll start feeling of how these people felt when they start getting shot at. I can see no reason for us shooting at these people, for several reasons. In the first place, we'll never shoot one of them down. At least I don't think we will. Secondly, I don't think we'd have very much if we did shoot one down, because these craft are not controlled by their own means of power. He told me they were remoted. Now, what would we have if we did shoot one down? I'd like to know that. Also, this gentleman told me they always come in by cloud cover or by night to eliminate being seen as much as possible. And I like that, because he picked me up at night. It verified the fact that I was down on that beach at 2 o'clock in the morning. Now, this gentleman told me one other outstanding thing about their navigation system, which I didn't tell you, and I think I will tell you, but usually this is asked. I asked him how did they, if they ever got lost traveling at a high rate of speed through space, because he told me their speed was limited only by the manner in which, or the speed at which they transfer their energy source. He said, no, they never got lost. And he told me why. He said, every planet has a separate and distinct means of identification. Yours, the magnetic pole. I think that's one of the truest statements I have ever heard, because I have always felt that magnetic pole is put there for a purpose far beyond that of ours, of navigation. Now, in this story, I am still in doubt as to why it happened. I ask myself almost daily, why did it happen, and why would it happen to me? I will show you one thing. Rather, I'll read you one thing. This came to me just about 4 or 5 days ago, and it came to me without asking. I do not profess to be a minister. I'm not getting up here telling you I'm a little angel. I'm not getting up here telling you I'm a messenger for you. But this came to me without me asking. I was sitting down thinking about the same thing. In fact, I think about it all day long sometimes. I can't get it off my mind as to why it happened. And I do go read the Bible now frequently. It has taught me to read the Bible. I opened the Bible. I didn't even look to where I'd opened it. And I looked down, and this is the first thing I saw with this on my mind. This came from St. John, chapter 3, verse 2. It said, the same came to Jesus by night, and said unto him, Rabbi, we know that thou art a teacher come from God, for no man can do these miracles that thou doest, except God be with him. Now, whether it was intended for me to read that, I don't know, but that's what I saw when I first opened the Bible. Now, that's just about the full story, but I have omitted some of it because I know you people will think of many questions to ask, and to keep this in somewhat of an orderly fashion, I'm going to start on my left because I'm fairly certain we'll take up about an hour asking questions and answering them. So if anyone has any questions, I will start, and then I'm going to show you the picture of the man. I know people want to see the picture of the man, but I will show it to you. But there's probably technical questions you'd like to ask. Anyone down here wish to ask anything? Yes, ma'am.
I understand that there has been one of these tracks that has been down someplace amongst the Indians in the south, possibly Mexico or thereabouts.
You mean recently?
Within the last 2 years, that the Indians will not let them come here. Have you used it yet?
I have been told in a letter that the Air Force has one at Edwards Air Force Base. Now, I don't follow any of these things up because I don't think they relate to this case of mine. And furthermore, I'm not trying to prove that this happened. I'm not trying to prove from the standpoint that I don't want people saying, well, he's going out and trying to back his story up. I don't want people to look at it that way. Because I know it happened, and I'm not trying to make anybody believe it happened. I have been told, though, that Edwards does have a craft down there, and they cannot get into it. I mean, this was told to me in a letter. As a matter of fact, I have about 5,000 letters since this incident took place. And I also have about 40 books mailed to me. They keep coming in daily. Yes, ma'am.
You feel that their intelligence and their, I don't know how I do my word expression, but their intelligence and their scientific excellence are far greater than what we get a day on Earth.
Well, I'm satisfied they are. Look at the means of transportation, for one thing. We can't equal that. At least I know of no means we can equal it. That's number one. If they can accomplish any language in the universe, like he said they can speak any language. Now, he didn't say universe. He said we can speak any language. We're not up to that yet. We don't even know how many languages exist out there. We don't even know how many exist on this earth, in fact. So there's another way of looking at this, too, and I will state it this way. They don't have to be very far ahead of us to accomplish this. If we stop and think what we had in the year 1900 and what we've got in 1965, look at the great advance we've made in that short 65 years. If somebody had told you in the year, well, let's say 1920 for you, not 1900, if somebody had told you in 1920 that we'd be flying jets now at 1,700 to 2,000 miles an hour, and we'd be sending rockets clear around the Earth without stopping, and we'd be sending rockets around the moon and returning them, sending cameras to the moon, you wouldn't have believed it, would you? Now, isn't that right? You would have. Well, you're about 1 out of 10,000 that would have believed it. Would you have believed it if somebody had told you you had television in 1947? Well, I wouldn't have. Well, of course, I wasn't very old in the year 1920. I think. Well, I will say that our advancement in the last 20 years has been far greater than the previous 20 years, mainly because of the war involved in it. And I think another 20 years will put us a lot further ahead, but what I think we should start advancing in is how to get along with our neighbors, rather than try to advance scientifically. There's a gentleman up with his hand back here for a long time. What we would call prayer room when he made that statement in that room. No, there could have been something in here. He did not open that altar. It looked like it could have been open, though. I mean, it had a little edge around it. Looked like it could have been open. I looked at it fairly close, but not to get up and really inspect it like I would inspect a piano standing here with it. I didn't feel free to do any of this. Because of those people, I didn't feel free to do anything, if you know the truth about it. I felt that they were superior to me, and I should regard them as such. There's several hands up. Let's go down the line right here. I did. Well, he didn't learn anything from me. He didn't ask me anything. This is why I say I think it was obvious he didn't want to know anything about me, but he rather came here to say something, to tell us. Now, I asked him, when I got back on the craft, after going outside, because I wanted to know, too, why they would pick me. I said to him, I am not a scientist, I'm not a minister, and I have very little education. Why would you pick somebody like myself rather than somebody with a high level of education or a minister who could have learned more than I did? And he says, we didn't pick you. He says, we asked you to come aboard and you chose to come aboard. He also said that they had been here before and asked people to go aboard, but they'd all been frightened away. This is what he told me. Now, at this same time, I'll tell you something else he said. Shortly after that, I says, have you been here before? And he said, yes. I says, are you coming again? Or will you come again? He said, yes. I said, will I get to see you again? He said, there's a possibility, but it depends upon me. Now, how to interpret that, I don't know. I hope I'm doing what they want me to do if I ever get to go back on it. Spreading the good word. I speak nothing but good of those people. This is why I say you can ridicule me all you want, but speak nicely of those people, will you? That's what I think about them. Yes, ma'am. It did, and I somehow think they did. In this respect, I don't think any 2 hours of my previous life up to that time I could have gone any place and heard somebody talk for 2 hours and come out and repeat them word for word. But I can in this case. I know exactly what he told me and exactly how he told it. I knew exactly what I saw on that craft, every room. I knew every step I took for that full 2 hours. How could anyone do that without being inspired to do it? I mean, this is my theory in that case. There are several hands. Let's pick this gentleman here first.
Yes, I'm interested in the fact that you said it took approximately 30 seconds for him to answer a question. This is an awful long time. What did you do then in 30 seconds?
Just stood and listened, waited.
And how many questions could you have answered through all the period?
I think I had 23 questions that I asked him, plus what he told me.
And each one of these questions that you asked him specifically, it took approximately 30 seconds?
Just about 30 seconds. Okay, there's 23. That only took 11 minutes out of the 2 hours.
I'm just concerned because of their speed and everything else, and his lack of speed in this one particular thing.
Well, there was two theories brought forward on this. First one was that he had to interpret it so I could understand it. That's the theory I would accept. Because as I had told him, I was not a scientist, neither did I have a high level of education, so he had to speak in terms I could understand in the first place. Now, another one was about someone was interpreting it for him out in space and sending it back. And it maybe took 15 seconds each way. Now, I don't exactly go along with that. I don't know which one to believe, really, but I think I would take the one where he interpreted material for me. There's a lot of hands up. There was a gentleman here who had his hand up for a long time. I think the rim around that craft was a monstrous gyro. This is what I would assume it to be. Now, I didn't see it turn because it was in total darkness. And also, I think it was enclosed where we couldn't see it if we wanted to. But I think that's where the noise was coming from. And I think it was turning very fast. I'm only assuming this because of two things. It was in the middle of the craft this way, and it was even clear around the craft. And it looked like it was some kind of a ballot system. This is what I would... Beg pardon? I didn't see any, and I was at night. Could have had them, but I didn't see them. Does that answer your question? Yes, ma'am.
Did they say why they were contacting you or different ones? Or if they wanted the message you broadcast told about?
No, he didn't. He didn't even tell me he wanted to come out and tell this. I was so dumbfounded that I didn't know what to do. I didn't even know if I should ask him or not. I guess they pick on people like me being so dumb, that we don't know any better. This is what I've been told about scientists, they don't know any better, so they go and invent something they know that wouldn't work anyway otherwise.
They've been there a number of times and contacted quite a few people.
That's right.
And they seem to be friendly and protective. And they certainly seem to have a closer walk with God than anyone I've seen on the earth.
They certainly have a closer walk than I ever did. I might equal them now, but I didn't then.
I was wondering if there'd be a possibility of becoming friends with them.
You mean you in particular?
Well, I'd love it, yes. But
Or do you mean the nation?
Yes.
Well, I think in due time you will see this. I think this now. You will be seeing more of their visits, and also they're going to start coming down and picking up more than one person. I think they're doing this in a manner to not alarm the people any more than possible. Now, what if he'd have come down and there had been a dozen people down there with me? You know what would have happened? We'd all gone scrambling up the hillside, and neither one of us would have gone back and got on the thing. I know I wouldn't have if somebody else had been around. They'd have thought I was crazy. Isn't that right? What if he were to come down in Sacramento in high noon when everybody's leaving the office to go out for a bite of lunch? They'd all scramble back inside, and half of them would be dead in 10 minutes or less. Seeing something like that at a time like that? Well, I think these people know that. They know what kind of attitude we have, and they don't want to do anything that would make us go out and kill ourselves. Now, to further this up just a little, this gentleman I just made reference to, Mr. Jennings, who lives close to me, who's quite a genius in inventions and patent holder, he tells me that he has a letter from New Zealand, just last week, incidentally, and a craft landed down there and picked up several people. And this is the first known case I know of where they picked up more than one person. I just wish I had his letter. He says he'll print it and give me a copy of it. I'll have it the next time I come. Yes, sir. There was a hand up here first.
You mentioned it's getting the son out as possible. Can you give a brief description to get the person without too much trouble?
I can tell you what he told me. He says there's two things you have to be concerned with. One, gravity, and another, inertia. If you overcome inertia, you can do this. And he told me how to do it, but I don't know technically. I mean, he could explain it to you, but I can't. I don't even know what inertia is in relation to gravity, if you want to know the truth about it. Do you? What kind of transmitter? No, he says I had drift. He says my transmitter drifted. Well, I've got several. I use a BC610 mostly. You know what a BC610 is? That's a piece of equipment about that big that, well, it's not quite as big as this. It's almost this high though, and almost this wide, and it runs up to 600 watts all along, and about 300 watts with it. But I'll tell you one thing about that 610, when I put it on the air, the people know I'm there. Yes, let's pick the lady there first. She had her hand up. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. He did not make reference to atomic energy at one time, or our testing, or our military. Yes, sir. What significance? I can only say it in this manner. I think that they want everything that goes on that craft to be perfectly clean, because they were perfectly clean. Every one of them, everything I looked at was flawless. And I think they wanted me to be the same way, and that's what they did. Maybe they have that room fixed just for coming to planets like this. Maybe they might go down in Africa and take one of those fellows aboard, and they don't want to go on there dirty and anything like that. They have to clean him up first. I mean, this would be my assumption. It made sense to me, and they did it twice. When I went outside the craft and went back in after that 3 minutes out, they did the same thing. There's a hand up back there. No. There's a lot of hands up. Yes, ma'am, you in the blue sweater. Other crafts from other planets? No, he made no mention of it. No, but I'll tell you this, with their means of travel and their methods of communication, I would assume they could. Because now when he made the statement that they could speak any language, he didn't tie that down with English, German, Russian, or our planet. He just said any language. So I'm assuming he meant any in the universe that they can hear. Now, in this line of thought, I think we could do that same thing if we could hear them. But we haven't heard them yet. At least, I don't think so. I think we could do it because over a long period of time, if you hear something long enough and loud enough, you could finally break it down. I mean, our forces can, and I think they have done that already. I mean, I believe I could myself. If I heard somebody speak in an unknown tongue every day for several years, I'd soon get it to know what they're talking about. I don't think it's anything uncommon. Let's see, which one should I go down first? You there, sir. We'll get them back there in a few minutes.
Yes, I wanted to ask about, you described it as being very sterilized and so on, and the fellow answered quite point blank. And sort of, the way I get it, that you said this, you had sort of a lack of any kind of distinct personality. Did his voice have any kind of you mean it was just sort of a monotone? Or?
It was a voice, I'd say, not as loud as we normally talk, not as fast as we talk, but everything very explicit, to the point.
Did he seem to be happy, or did he seem to have any emotion?
Well, he didn't really look unhappy, yet he didn't smile. I wouldn't say they're unhappy from the standpoint that maybe they came here to tell me a certain thing and they wanted to tell it in a manner that would be expressed the way they put it over. Now, if I see him again, he might smile. He might even tell me a good joke. But their first presentation, now this is another thing too, I think that a first presentation of a person really tells you what they are. I have always thought this. He presented himself in a manner which I thought he was a perfect gentleman, and he left accordingly. He left me with no other reason to believe this. This might be why they did that. But I cannot say they were unhappy, no. I will say that this picture I have here of him that I had drawn is not exactly representative of the looks on his face. He looks a little more pleasant than the picture I have. But the fellow who drew this picture finished at 2 o'clock in the morning, and he's the one that was sour, not the picture. I haven't shown it yet. I will just a second. I can show it now. Oh, I beg your pardon. Let me show the picture. There'll be more questions. Okay, let me describe him, because I know there'll be a lot more questions. Can everybody see this? He was about 5'10". In fact, they were all about the same height and the same build. They all had on a two-piece suit. The gentleman forgot to draw the collar on there, so I put that on myself with a pencil. Now, he stood just about the way you see him here. I drew him looking like this because he was on my left at all times. He had 2 eyes, and he had 2 ears, and he had a mouth and nose just like us. There was one unusual thing very outstanding about him. His hair looked natural and looked like it had never been cut. It didn't look like it had ever been combed either, you know. Well, I don't comb mine either, but not for the same reason he doesn't comb his. No, he didn't look like he ever shaved either. He had no mustache, and his skin had no blemishes on him, absolutely none. Now, no, he didn't. No. He looked just smooth, just as perfectly smooth. Now, I've been asked what was his color. The best I can describe his color, I spent a year on the Gold Coast, and it was comprised mostly of Armenians, the Armenian race. And I think if I had anything to compare him with, it would be the Armenian race in color. I wouldn't exactly say in looks, but specifically the color. He was lighter in color than I am, and he did not have the same shade of color that we have. It was somewhat of a yellowish-like color. Not yellow, but I mean a pale-looking color. I can't properly describe it because I've never seen anything like it before. But if I was going to compare him with anything I'd seen on this earth, I would say he was close to an Armenian.
What is age?
They were all around 20 to 25 the way we look at a person. He was not very old the way I would classify him. I classified him to be about 22 or 23, but now we don't know how old he is. He didn't tell me how old they get. He said they had a long life expectancy. I said he didn't look like he'd ever shaved. Whether they do or not, I don't know. There's several hands up here. Let's pick this gentleman here. Well, he didn't ask anything. He didn't ask anything. Personally to me, I can tell you one of his parting words or one of his parting statements was. Now, I don't know how to interpret it. I don't want to be quoted on it. I'll only tell you what he said because I don't know the meaning of it. And I don't know what it will mean 20 years from now. But he did say that this country will be given the opportunity to participate in a worldwide experiment within 20 years. And if we should participate in it, that it would cause a lot of loss of life. He didn't say we would participate in it. He said if we did, and we would be given the opportunity to participate in it. No, sir, he did not. Yes, sir.
I remember a few years ago that they had pretty sure, in the coronet, and they had a picture and such as just almost identical to what you have on the ship, and it was almost identically the same thing. Incidentally, did you see it?
No, sir. I don't take coronet.
There was. That's before coronet went out of business. And they did have a picture of it, and they explained it almost explicitly like you explained yours. Almost the same thing.
Well, I have not been mailed any literature yet that has a contact close to this one. I mean, I've had some that have related incidents, but nothing that would be what you'd call a direct relation. I don't recall seeing that because I knew so little about this subject before this happened that I couldn't get up to talk to you 2 minutes on it. I wish I could see that article. I mean, if there was any way of obtaining a copy of it, I'd like to get it and read it. I'd sure like to see it. There's several hands up here, and I'd like to catch them. Yes, ma'am.
Is a woman of feminine and perhaps real masculine?
Very much so.
Like you don't real.
You mean as you or me?
Female.
She was built like you. Her hair was longer, much longer than his, and she had it down inside of her clothing, incidentally. It was not outside. But she looked like, specifically like a woman. They were all dark, much darker than what this shows here. They were almost black. They were all that same color, about the same color.
This experiment you mentioned implies that they could see in the future. Do you do anything else like this?
No. That's the only thing he made, the only indication he had that would imply anything that's going to happen in the future. There's a lot of hands up. You've been trying for a long time.
Would you say that the sound you heard would have any reference to a sound like magnetic force? You know, when you heard the atomic force, it would have a sort of a magnetic, force of a magnetic force that was positive. Like the transformer hum.
The only thing I can classify that with, which I have for a long time, is if you were approaching a transformer and hear it, as you approached it, it got louder and louder, and you could hear a pulsation in it. This thing appeared to have about a 30-cycle pulsation. Now, a transformer has a 60 cycle, but this appeared to have a lesser cycling to it. It sounded like more like a transformer than anything else. I did not see him light at any time, but now we only stood by the instruments when he showed me this other craft out in space. That's 610? Well, I can tell you something. Every time I press that button, I'm heard throughout the universe. Because that thing really puts out a nice signal. There's several hands up back there. Could I catch them first? How about the gentleman in the end? I sure did. I can only tell you what they told me. They said satisfactory but inconclusive. That's what they said. Does that answer your question? I will tell you the truth, I don't want to know how they come out. I don't really care how they came out. They said that I repeated it word for word, just like I had originally told them. Yeah, how about the next gentleman standing there? You. I asked him his purpose for being here, and he said observation only. Maybe they have intentions of helping us in the future, but they have to do it in a manner not to get anyone alarmed and get ourselves killed. This would be my assumption. Beg pardon? Well, he told us that. Because we're hostile with them. He said we're hostile with them. Well, he said we're hostile in the sense that we shoot down or attack unknown objects for purposes of destruction without cause. Now, I think in due time, as time goes on and they start making contacts with more people, maybe they will try to get at some of our military or government agencies. I hope so. But they have no intentions of it right now. I think too, in that same line of thought, that they want it accepted by the people before they go to the military. That's the way I would look at it. There's several hands up back there that's been up for quite a while. Yes, sir. No. Well, they didn't look like identical twins. No, I could tell them apart. But I would tell you this, that, when we pick astronauts, we pick them all in the same age category, in the same height and weight category. They were picked in the same manner, and they might have been picked specifically for this trip in that same line of thought. They looked like the same race of people, but not as identical twins. They looked a lot more alike than you and me, I'll tell you. There's a lady here that's had her hand up a bullet through the top. No, he did not. Well, when the craft touched ground, or at least came down close to ground, I have a picture of the hole that it made in the ground. I went back the next morning and took it the first thing with a flash. You want to see it? Can't show it to you yet. Oh, I've got it. See, I got several things I'm going to show you ultimately that you'll really be surprised to see. No, I didn't say this evening. Yes, sir. I have read an account of it, but they made no mention of it to me. As a matter of fact, I might tell you this, that I have been told there are more than one type of flying saucers coming here from more than one source. Now, these that came to me, he told me where they were from, but I still don't know. And I've also been told they're a hostile type. I'm sure glad I didn't encounter them. I'm glad I encountered the ones that I encountered. I would like to make contact with him by radio. I really would. I don't think there'd be a greater thing ever happened to me if I could make contact by radio. Well, he said a system unknown to us when I asked him about his communication, so that just dropped the subject right there. If it was unknown to me, then I wouldn't know what he was talking about. Yes, ma'am. I'll go to you next.
You did say that one of the universities showed you planets that are like planets that we observe.
Yes, ma'am. I have a chart. Well, we don't have them named yet.
No, I mean, is it behind the moon or behind Mars?
I'd rather you take a look at the chart. I wish I had the chart with me. It's a monstrous thing. It would hang from about that corner there down to that corner. It was mailed to me in a folder, and it cost about $1.50 to send it. It was folded up about 15 or 20 times for me to get it. I remember one specifically, which he had a line drawn out to. He had passed the planet Ceres. I don't even know where that is in the universe, to tell you the truth. He had passed that and gone way out there, and he says, we know a planet exists out here that we can't see because of formations in the sky, but we cannot see it at any time. But he wrote me a long letter showing me why we don't see it. That wasn't the only reason. He mentioned that, I'm sure, but that was not the specific reason. Well, I remember that line was thrown right past Sirius when he pointed out that planet that we know exists, or they know exists, that we don't see. I mean, that's the only thing I remember in the line. But this line that he drew was way out past the sun, too, incidentally. So I don't know what's out there. Someday I will know, I hope. Anything else before... Yes, sir. I can't really answer that in this sense. Now, I know he breathed. I could hear him breathing. But now, whether they had some means to make me breathe their way of living or he breathed our way of living, I don't know. Now, it could be that when he told me I must leave the craft, which was about 5 minutes before I left, it could be that he was running out of time. I mean, this theory has been brought forward that they had some means of breathing our air, but it would only last a certain period of time, and they had to get out in order to go back to their own way of living. Now, I don't know what to think in this case, but I know I breathed quite comfortably, and he appeared to be breathing.
Why did he have you go out to that unit and come back in?
He asked me if I wanted to go out. He asked me in the consultation room if I'd like to go out, and I told him yes. For one thing, I wanted to see where we were, if I could possibly identify it. Because I know that whole Santa Cruz Mountain Ridge just by heart. I've patrolled it for years. I used to be with the sheriff's department. No longer, however. Yes, sir.
You left the craft and leave it to exact responsibility?
No, sir.
Did you walk away from it?
I sure did.
Did you ever investigate to see if the possibility somehow of had some kind of a concussion or something when you fell down and hit your knee to see if it was poison?
I thought about it, walking back up the hill. I didn't run back up the second time. I walked back up. I stood there and watched it take off. And you know how long it took to take off? He started this engine, he raised up to about 20 feet and sat there for about 10 seconds. Zoop. I'd say he wasn't in view over 6 or 7 seconds once he started that engine on the ground. And that isn't very long. And I watched him take off. About 1,000 feet. About 1,000 feet. It's between, this place is between my house, home and the ocean. Oh, it made a noise, but no longer than it lasts. The average person wouldn't even listen to it, wouldn't even pay attention to it. It's just here and it's gone. Beg your pardon? No, the roaring sound. It wasn't a real loud roar. I mean, it wasn't something that would drown your ears out. It was a sound you could tolerate for, a good period of time. It wasn't strong enough to where it would, let's put it this way, if the ocean was roaring real heavy like it does get sometimes, and it really pounds over nights, and the wind blows, you would never hear that sound.
How far did you, how long did it take to get out?
About 6 or 7 seconds. It was completely gone and no more sound. I would say not over 7 seconds, because it went and it just zooped like that. There were several hands up in here. Yes, sir.
Have they made any sightings or any contact with any other country?
Any sightings, or you mean actual contact?
Actual contact.
Well, this is what I'm turning up. In the past 90 days, I've run across some literature that I never knew existed. And one piece of literature particularly that's interesting is the fact that Germany, one city in Germany, puts out a publication every month on nothing but flying saucers every month. And I happen to come across a copy of it, and I'd like to subscribe to it. And I probably will if I find out how to subscribe to it. The Japanese nation puts out a publication about once a week on nothing but flying saucers, and they have pictures in there every week. Fresh pictures, not old pictures of flying saucers. How about this contact that Mr. Jennings just told me took place in New Zealand? where they picked up more than one person. They picked up several. They're not only coming to this country, they're going to all countries. And I never knew that the amount of literature exists in this subject that does exist. It scares me to go out and look at a whole bank of books and magazines that people have covering it sometimes. I mean, there's people that have nothing but libraries on this, which is quite astounding. Yes, sir. It dug a hole when a flash occurred. It didn't leave any evidence that I could see. No. Only on contact, and he told me what that was, incidentally, because I asked him, perhaps in about 30 minutes after I got on the craft, I asked him what was that flash that occurred when he first came down, and he said it was a static charge that discharges upon contact with any planet. He did not say our planet alone, he said any planet. And I do have a picture of that. HXJ, the only one in the book. Don't worry, if you look up HXJ, you will see it. Beg pardon? No, just one. I'm fortunate I got an outstanding call. Nobody else would have it. Most people pick it up as HXK, though. There were some hands up back there. Yes, ma'am. Well, the stool made the ninth one, which constituted a seat for everyone on the craft. I think it had significance to the fact that everyone would have a place to sit when they went in there, because he had told me they didn't make a move without first consulting. Yes, sir, young chap there.
Did you say that on that poster, you got some birthday, music from the birthday, that there was a planet revolving around the star, and it seems to.
Well, the line was drawn out quite a bit past Sirius, and he showed me where they said formations had shown up, indicating there's a planet out there. Now, I couldn't tell you how far out past Sirius it is. Actually, I haven't really studied the thing. I've seen it. I've had it on the floor several times, and every time I get it down, my wife wants to vacuum or something, and I got to take it up. It's a big charge. I couldn't put it here unless I hung it up on the wall someplace. Well, it was made especially for me, and I imagine it took a long time to make it. Because, you see, I gave a talk up there, and this subject came up, and there was quite a discussion on it. And these gentlemen, I guess it was about a dozen of them, got down and drew this chart for me and sent it to me, which I thought was real nice. I thought it was outstanding, in fact. But they didn't only mention the one planet Sirius. They have several lines drawn out showing where there are known planets existing. I just happened to mention that because I remembered seeing it. Well, the story isn't told completely as to why they came down here and why they contacted me, and I will know that someday, I think. And I said that there's more people than myself working on this. There's many people working on it, hundreds of people working on it. I have people wanting to see a full report on it every few days. I'll give it to them if they want it. I mean, there's nothing secret about it. And it also has a couple items in it which I don't tell at meetings. No, I'm going hungry. No, this has taken up an awful lot of time. I'll tell you, it's taken up most of my time. I do very little other work right now. Well, I still have the business, but I don't work at it very much. I can't do it. This has involved so much traveling for one thing, and so much time spent away from home. So by the time I get back home Monday morning, I'm pretty well beat. And furthermore, I'm accumulating a lot of data on this by going from place to place that I never knew existed before. And I'm compiling it. I'm making a little study of the people who have been involved in these contacts other than myself. It's amazing what I'm turning up about them. For instance, they're all about 45 years old at the time there was contact with me. And we're all about the same height, about the same weight, look just about alike. Now, why these people are picking on a guy like me, I'll never know. It's pretty obvious that the education level means nothing to them. Because if they wanted somebody educated, they certainly wouldn't pick on me. He said they had no schools. Now, what he did say, he said their young are taught from a very young age to do a job which they do very well. I could interpret that this way. I don't care who you take, boy or girl or what, and you start them out at 3 years old to start learning a job. When they're 10 years old, they know that job well. When they're 20 years old, they're an expert. When they're 30 years old, they know it by heart. They don't need to know anything else. I don't think so, no. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're centered on that one job. That might mean that they're a professional on that one job, but they have other things they do as well. Maybe not as a professional end, but just look at it from another standpoint, too. What if we taught our kids that way? There would be no reason for having a school. I can teach my kids radio from the time they're 3 years old. They wouldn't know anything else, but they'd be smart in radio. And radio is a good field, by the way. It's an outstanding field. Does that answer your question? I think it does. They all know everything. They should know. Not this good a memory. I've had a good memory. I've had a good memory all my life, but I don't think I could go anyplace else in 2 hours and describe perfectly what I saw and perfectly what I heard for 2 full hours. When I got back home, this struck me odd that I could remember everything he said. I didn't have to write it down to remember it. It was fixed in my memory what he had said. And it was fixed in my memory what I had seen. No, sir. No, not that good. Of course, this is quite an outstanding incident, you know. And I think I'll remember it as long as I live, just like he told it. Yes, ma'am.
On the TV, you said that they had given you the sodium pentothal, and this report that they took at that time, is that exactly the way you're telling it now?
It's almost word for word. Now, I'll tell you this, that they waited about 30 days to give me that sodium pentothal to see if I was really lying. So they tell me the report was very satisfactory. When they left, they also gave me a lie detector test the same day.
What was that, the scientist that gave this the sodium pentothal?
Oh, Air Force personnel.
What part of the Air Force does it?
There's a team that do it, that do nothing but this.
You mean in relation to this specific phenomenon?
The specific item alone. I didn't know this till this happened. In fact, I knew so little about it that I didn't even want to discuss it with the Air Force. That's what they tell me. And they tell me they're busy at it, too. No, the Air Force has nothing to do with NICAP. No. They do. In fact, I don't think they even recognize it. That's what I'm told. Yes, sir.
This Air Force inquiry, is that what they call Project Blue Book?
The Project Blue Book, I think, was closed in 1958, but they call it something else now. I think it was closed in 1958. It's the same type of investigation, but it's handled a little different now, because used to they'd even talk to a person on the telephone and get his account, and they wouldn't go to see him, but now they go to see everyone without fail. Anyone who even claims they saw one man out on the field, they want to talk to him. And I think their attitude now is that they're coming to the point that they're going to have to tell the people something, but they don't know what to tell them. They're going to have to start admitting it. As a matter of fact, there's a document out from the government printing office right now, and I can't tell you the number of it, but I know it's on the market, that covers the subject of spacecraft and flying saucers. That's printed by Uncle Sam. I'm going to get it myself and see what they have to say about it, but it does not include anything in 1965, up to 64.
I called out from Clone Field. I haven't seen some of these unknown flying objects in the close. I guess that those things are setting up. And I called up and told them about it. And I asked them about these things going on. If they ever hear about anything like that? And this guy said, yes, we've heard about it. He said, as a matter of fact, some of our flyers saw it. They said they won't let us make a report of it.
I know that's what you get from the Air Force. They don't know what to tell the people. You're satisfied it was not an aircraft? Well, I can tell you this, that I know for a fact that craft that I went on was in my area for a couple of months after I went on it. I know it from a lot of standpoints. It was seen. I didn't see it anymore, but I know it from physical things that were happening. I know lots of kids down at the high school who claimed they saw it and see it come out on the ballpark and land and take right off. Just come down and sit down for a second and off it would go. And the kids have no reason to tell this, unless they see it. Now, this lady had her hand up there a long time ago. You mean from the people on the craft? No, they made no mention of our space program. None whatever. But there's a lady back there with her hand up, too. One color. It was what I would call a bluish-white light. But I can't be sure. I have nothing to compare it with specifically. That's what it appeared to be. It was a real pleasant light to look at. It wasn't irritating or anything like that. Their suits, I can tell you that the suits were a darker color than the lights, slightly darker, and then the chair coloring was even darker than the suits. It seemed to graduate down like that, like from the lights to his suit, then down to the covering on the chairs. They weren't colors as we know colors, like red, white, and blue. I could draw a shade probably and come fairly close to it, but I doubt I'd ever get exactly what it was. I mean, in relation to what the light started out as, and then his suit, and then the seat, the covering on the chairs got darker yet. Now the lighting was a very pleasant look. And when it got down on his clothing, it made his clothing look real pleasant to look at, too. It made it look a real high-quality material. But whether the light was doing that or not, I don't think so. I think maybe the clothing was a very high-quality material. For instance, it was not tight-fitting. It was fairly loose and fairly comfortable-looking. Very comfortable-looking to me. He didn't look uncomfortable. Well, all I can show you is what he had on here, and it was one piece from here on down, and it looked like a slip-in boot to me. I mean, it would appear to be a slip-in boot. Just as if a guy had on a fishing suit, and pulled it up here at the waist and had it fairly tight-fitting, and then a slip-on suit here, because I saw no openings in it like zippers or buttons or anything. I saw nothing that would indicate where it opened. Now, I didn't see him face to face enough to really get a good look at the front of the suit either. I just saw him instantaneous when he said I could follow him, and when I left the craft, I saw him again. That's all, straight on. Yes, sir. Yes. I touched him when he put his hand forward like that, for me not to go forward in the... Oh, yes, I walked right into it. He felt like flesh, yeah. I didn't get up there and slap him on the shoulder and say, "Hi, how are you?" Now, I missed one thing purposely, and I'm surprised it hasn't been thought of yet. Nobody has asked what his name was. See, I was waiting. I left that purposely because it has quite a story behind it. I asked him his name shortly after I got on the craft, when I was asking where he was from and what he ate, and if he lived like us, and he said he did not say this was his name. I said, "Do you have a name?" And he said, "You may call me Xeno." Now that's what he said. So when he said Xeno, I could only picture it in my mind as being Z-E-N-O. However, let me tell you this, one of the most fantastic things happened I have ever seen about 30 days or less after I got off that craft. I got a letter through the mail, and it told me specifically that Xeno is not spelled Z-E-N-O. This lady had read this account in the newspaper back on the East Coast someplace, and she said it is spelled X-E-N-O. And she said, look up in the dictionary X-E-N-O and see what it means. You'll be quite astounded to read it, and I was. It says stranger or foreigner. Now, he did not say that was his name. He said I could call him that. I want every one of you to look it up. I told the Air Force he said his name was Xeno, Z-E-N-O, and that's the way I would spell it. But obviously it is not the right way to spell it. And it means stranger or foreigner. And he was a total stranger to me, and he was a foreigner. Yes, sir.
You mentioned feeling and seeing and hearing and touching and so on. Did he smell anything?
Nope.
No smell at all.
Nope. But now, mind you, I said that craft was absolutely immaculate. I think that I was breathing air, but I cannot be sure. It could have been a purified air, too.
Well, you mentioned that something was leading up to this, and then you sort of said, you didn't elaborate on it. Do you care to elaborate on that at all? You said something, I think, about a year prior to this, something that was leading up to this.
Oh, I can tell you many instances I can look back on now and say that they led up to it, because there was no reason for them happening. I mean, no basic reason.
Being a skeptic, I'll ask the obvious question. Did you have any business failings or anything that would cause you to, for some reason, experience something like this?
I had a tragedy in 1962. I do not care to tell you what that tragedy was, but let me tell you something else. I have read the background of every man encountered as in a contact that every one has had a tragedy in his life. I mean, what I would term a tragedy.
I didn't quite follow it.
Everybody who's been contacted has had a tragedy in their life. Now, why these people would pick somebody like this, your guess is as good as mine. That's part of the puzzle I'm going to work out for you.
There's nothing particular in the last year that has caused any kind of a breakdown or anything like that?
You mean physical breakdown? No. No, I've never. No, I've never had a mental breakdown. I've never been confronted with anything of a real serious nature that I couldn't handle myself. I said I had a tragedy in my family, but I handled it out. I worked it out by myself. I mean, I didn't go to anybody else and ask for help in it. And it took everything I had to do it. I want you to know that. Yes, ma'am. The form? Oh, jigsaw puzzle. Oh, yes. And when I get the other three pieces, just pieces put here, and each one meaning something. That's the way I pictured it. In other words, when this thing occurred, I couldn't imagine why it would happen, see. I mean, it meant nothing. I mean, to me it was so insignificant. But then as I started looking at it and thinking about it, and people began calling me about it and visiting me and writing me letters, I began looking at it from a different standpoint. And it was beginning to tell a story. And it was beginning to mean something. Then's when the puzzle began working together. He didn't even give me a chance to say, well, could I have that to stick in my pocket to take back with me? He didn't give me a chance to say anything. All I got was just a good look at it, and he stuck it back up in there real fast. I didn't see what the food was. It was in a package. And when he stuck it back up there must have been around 50 other packages up there. Yes, ma'am.
You said something about after this experience, there's been a meeting more fear. What was the place that you used to fear?
That consultation room. When I left that room, I says, I have no more fear. I know that I've contacted somebody greater than man on this earth. And I know I contacted him, or rather he contacted me. So I have no reason to fear anything else anymore. And I don't. We're running out of time here, so we'll take about 4 or 5 more questions. Yes, sir.
This indirect lighting, you said you saw no direct lighting. Well, were these rooms well lit or dimly lit?
They were a comfortable light. Not real bright. I mean, I could go in there with my camera and take a picture. They weren't bright enough to hurt your eyes or anything like that, but they were well lit. And furthermore, here's one thing about this now. I noticed this in particular, that there were no shadows. I think that was because the lighting was indirect. The light was all coming through the walls, and I could not see my shadow when I stood there. It was so perfectly lit. I mean, I looked at that room real good. Every room we went in, I looked at it. I got a good picture of what it looked like. And walking down the hallways, I couldn't see any shadows. But I think that's all because the lighting was indirect, and it was coming from every source around you.
Was it good enough to read easily?
Oh, very easily. Oh, sure. There was just as much light up here as there was over there. The only thing that wasn't lighted was the floor. Which one should I go first here? Over here.
I'm not familiar if, were there rugs on the floor?
No, ma'am. No rugs.
Wood or metal?
Well, how do we know what to call it? I've never seen it before.
Was it brick? Did you have good traction on it?
I had real good traction. If I had to classify the floors, I would classify it as something like a rubberized material. Now, I can't be sure because I've never seen it before. But it was not uncomfortable walk on. It was fairly soft. When I walked down, I had my old work shoes on, which I usually wear to the beach. It was real comfortable, soft walking. But I could hear us walking. I could hear Ian myself walking.
Was it shiny or dull?
It was quite dull. It wasn't shiny. It was somewhat of a dull color. It was duller than this. I couldn't hear any echo, no. I could hear us walking, but I didn't hear any echo, no. Yes, ma'am.
Did you know about, everybody in here about a month ago, that article in the paper where this man called Saucer that landed and took off and dropped his, what he thought was paper and it was on.
I read that.
Government has it naturally.
Naturally, they'd take it. That's why I didn't let them have these pictures. That's why they never know where they are. I've got those pictures where nobody knows where they are. That's why I'm not showing them to you tonight. I don't want them confiscated. I only got one of each one right now. Yes, sir.
This craft was at rest, was it in contact with the earth?
You mean at the first time or when we moved?
Well, you got out and examined it.
It was making contact then, but I don't think it made contact at first. I never have thought so. It hovered, but it was hovering low enough to where I could step inside comfortably.
When you stepped in that door, entry door, was it a ramp or steps?
I just stepped right into the craft. No ramp or steps. I just stepped right up into the room. It was low enough that I could step inside.
The door open.
Well, I slid to the left, just like that. Sliding door. Mm-hmm. Just like that.
What are these two pictures? What are the pictures of that you said you had?
Where the flash took place.
What happened to the spot the flash took place?
It dug a little hole, burned it.
Is it still there?
Oh, no, it covered up, I'd say within that same day.
What? Oh, this was in sand or something?
No, it was in a parking area. It's in dirt, but it's real heavy, hard dirt.
Oh, it is in the cabin, dirt.
It's all awfully hard dirt.
So that a matter of hours later it wasn't there?
No, sir. There's a lot of traffic through there. An awful lot of traffic. On a day like today, about half of San Jose would be there, in fact. About half the San Francisco Peninsula would be there. That place would be full of cars by 10 o'clock on a day like this. You couldn't find a place to stand, in fact. Anything else? When the flash occurred is what made the indentation, not where he sat down. The flash itself. Underneath, I don't know exactly what part because I wasn't looking that close. All I know is it lit up the whole area when it touched ground or came close to ground. It was a scorch-like effect. It dug a little hole, and it actually left a burn mark. And that's what I'll show you the next round.
Do you have the negatives or just a snapshot?
I've got a color slide.
Well, wouldn't it be possible for you to take a picture off of it to get rid of it?
I don't want them to have a picture of it. Oh, I'd say within a couple of months. I'll have a lot of pictures to show then, though. Because, you see, I'm seeing things every day. I mean, when I go to visit people with these libraries, I'm beginning to see little things that tie in with this incident quite closely. And I have seen photographs people have that look just like this craft, but I have not been able to obtain the photographs yet. I have tried to obtain them, but I can't get them yet. I will get them in due time. And I'll have them to pass around to show exactly what the craft looked like. Because there are actual photographs taken on this earth of it. I think it's the same craft. Taken down in, I think it was taken in New Zealand in 1958 to be exact. This is 7 years later, but still looks like the same craft. Yes, ma'am.
You said you were attracted by the noise. Was there any light?
No light to start with. I didn't see a light till they opened the door for me to get inside. No, it was not moonlight. I had been down there about 15 minutes, and it was extremely bright to be a moonless night. I mean, it was very bright. I could see the whole coastline from Monterey clear on up around Capitola and SoCal, beautifully. There was no haze of any kind that night that I could see on that ocean. It was just like sitting there looking at every light right around the bay, and sitting there on one of those posts in that parking lot, you can see the whole outline of the bay perfectly. I mean, on a night like that. All I saw when I first spotted the craft was the shadow of the thing coming down. It looked like it was getting awfully big, awfully fast. That's what made me go that way.
I understood you say that these people from San Jose. Now, am I to understand correctly that you were walking the beach, which would be around like Watsonville?
Well, this didn't actually take place on the beach. It took place in a little park called Manresa Beach. But this,
Is this close to Watsonville?
about 6 airline miles, yeah.
South, north?
Well, look at Watsonville. It's sitting inland 3 miles. Santa Cruz is sitting right on the coast, northwest of Watsonville, almost due west. We're right in between it, but we're right on the coast, too. So this little park is between my house and the beach. In other words, when I go down at the park, I can overlook the whole Monterey Bay sitting down on that parking lot. If I'm on the edge, the ocean edge side of it.
I used to drive that so many times going in from San Jose to Watsonville, and I was wondering if I had ever passed this place to see.
Well, the Selva Beach hasn't.
On the freeway.
You know, when you come out of Watsonville on Highway number 1, you go about 6 miles, like you're going to Santa Cruz, and you come to a sign that says La Selva Beach. There's not very many people who go in there. Only the people who live in there, except on a day like this, and they all find their way down to the beach.
Let's have one more question. This guy's getting tired. You know how long he's been here?
It's all right.
This lady back there has been trying to get through.
Here, let's take this one. I can only tell you my assumption in this case. I think that master craft that he showed me, or their navigation craft, what he called it, is perhaps their means of transportation through the universe. But when they get down close to a place like this, they don't want to bring it down, because in the first place they don't want to fight. But it is capable of fighting back. But I think it's too valuable to bring down and risk it down here with us. Now, in this respect, I think they send these little craft down like the one I got on, and also there's another little one they send down that is not manned. It's just remoted by this big craft. And they hop it over the mountainside and bring it up next to an airplane flying up through the sky, look it over good, and then they take it back up. Now, I think this craft that I was on had one of those little craft on it. That's what I thought. Up on the very top, that they could lift off and send over to another spot. You mean when I left to go back home? I just backed up about 15, 20 feet and it took off. Nope. It was gone. It didn't stay long enough to heat the place up. Yes, ma'am. A lot of what, please? Oh, I've got energy to burn. I said I can get by with 3 to 4 hours sleep. It doesn't bother me. Oh, I got energy to spare and give to somebody. I got more energy than I ever thought I'd have. Like at 6 o'clock in the morning, I'll get up and take the dogs for a walk down to the beach, and I'll walk 5 miles and come back home for breakfast. Oh, I'm satisfied they did. Oh, sure. That light revived me. I'm satisfied that since that incident, that my health is a lot better, and I feel a lot better daily. I get up right at 6 o'clock every morning without fail. The alarm doesn't go off. I don't even set the alarm, in fact. Don't need to. I can get up whether I go to bed at 2 o'clock or not. Yes, sir. Well, let me tell you this. You can tell what cycling this is right now, and I can tell you how you can do it. Run your hand across it with one eye closed. You can see it. You can see the cycling. I mean, I tried that, and I did not see it, any cycling in it. It was a very soft but a good light, a very comfortable light. I've never heard of it. No, I didn't. I can't see that had any effect on me at all. It gave me good eyesight, better eyesight than I've had for years. I tell you, my health is absolutely remarkable right now. I got a little health to spare. I didn't get that.
No, you said you would see bugs deep down when you went through this, when you first went into class. And then when you got in there, you would be susceptible to any medical reaction or any energy that would be put out by the light. And I was just trying to track the two together, so it wouldn't mean something.
Oh, I see. It's possible. I have never looked at it that way. That could have been a penetrating type light. It's definite it could have been. Well, I'm sure glad they did it. I'll put it. Anybody else want to ask a question before we quit? Well, I can tell you this. It looked like it was a long ways away, and it looked awfully big. And I'll tell you why. First of all, it was in sunlight, and this was about 2:30, quarter to 3 in the morning. And at 2:30 or quarter to 3 in the morning, that time of the year, you know how high you'd have to go to be in sunlight? All I can tell you is it was not a monitor as we would look at a television. It appeared to be an optical system because it was not on a screen. It looked like I was sitting there or standing there looking right directly at it through an optical system, just if you were to hold a glass here and look through it, and it was somewhat magnified. Now, I don't know how many times it was magnified. I have nothing to compare it with. But first of all, it was in sunlight. Secondly, there was a lot of haze between me and it. When I got on that craft, it was perfectly clear. That meant it had to be a long ways away before any haze would appear. Now, I would say that standing there looking at it, to compare it with something, well, see if I can see something here I could compare it with. You see that top mark up there? It was bigger than that. It was about 3 times that size the way I was looking at it. I could just see it hanging there in midair. And it was in daylight. Now, I think it had to be at least 500 miles out into space to be in daylight to begin with. And it had to be awfully big for me to be seeing it like that, unless they had some means of greatly magnifying it before I looked at it. Now, no, it wasn't a photograph, no. He also told me I could not see that craft outside. I could only see it looking through that one spot. And I did look for it when I was outside, and I also looked for it when he left, and I didn't see it. I didn't see anything that would even look like it. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to know if, since your health has improved to such a great extent, have you seen any difference in the health of your wife and your children?
Our grocery bill is going up daily. No, it really isn't. But they, I'll tell you one thing, they all seem to be feeling better from time to time. It seems to be getting progressively better. Honestly, it does.
Would you attribute this to mental? Or do you think that actually that your body has brought back some type of cure that we don't know about, but they know about?
No, I think it's spiritual more than anything else. I really do. Because the boys now are beginning to realize there's more to this than what I could have ever explained to them before, or what my wife could have explained to them. And even the 12-year-old one, that's not very old, you know, for a boy to go start out thinking of it spiritually. He hasn't been taught very much, but they're taking it more serious every day. They even go to the Bible and read it. I don't give it to them. I don't tell them to read it. It's up to them. But they do. So I think it's something they're bringing on. this is the only way I could look at it.
Very possible that you brought back with you, after being in the ship, a spiritual inside that we know nothing of, that would in turn be capable of changing the people who are around you in spiritual contact.
Well, I'm not trying to change anybody, but it's possible that could be. Even if I could, I doubt that I would for a long time till I could see that it was perfected.
No, but what I was talking about now, we talk about these people who are healers, and this probably that these people are supposed to be spiritual. Otherwise, like our Lord, He heals, He's a spiritual, so this is possible.
Well, I wouldn't class myself as a healer by no means. I mean, no. Well, I hope so, because I know lots of people who are sick, and I'd like to help. I'd like to go to Washington right off to start with.
Well, thank you, friends, but we must close this, and then if you want to talk to Mr. Padrick afterwards, why, you'll be perfectly welcome to do so. And but I know he won't stop. He'll stay here all night. And I really enjoyed to see the interest and the enthusiasm, and hope to see you all out at some of our next lectures, and bring that same enthusiasm with you, because it helps.
Thank you all. Good night.
Oh, let's see.
The heck?
And don't feel bad. I used to feel no
Well, could you have told me? Could you have told me what I was going to tell you?
No, not exactly.
But you knew it was going to be a four-letter word. It started with X. Well, it actually started with X, but I had spelled it with a Z. But you knew that's what I was going to say.
May I say you weren't the only one?
Did you do it too?
I certainly did. And listen, will you put your address? I'll show you how this works. It's a new deal. That's Mr. Xeno. I don't have one of my cards.
It's not about a report or something. What we're talking about here and so on.
Wait, give me your address. I'll bear you one.
You had a pencil or anything?
The one that you get an autograph, I know. So I come see if your wife didn't object. We always take off in that saucer, you know.
We have company.
Because I know I'm going.
We have company almost every day. She's getting used to it now. It's commonplace.
You see, I'm one of the best believers.
I wanted to tell you this is the first time that I've ever been to it.
And most of the chairs.
Fascinating OBJ.
Yeah.
Do you?
You let him look out, you'll have the rest of the government.
You'll be back again.
Oh, I would have.
Get your breath.
I would have speak to all the groups I have already spoken to again in about 2 months.
Don't forget.
And I'll have photographs to show them. I'll have a lot more data on it too.
Oh, you asked a question. Do you know about faith?
No.
Well, there's a magazine, and I believe this daughter.
Could I use your pencil you were just
something that I
using
do
there
have
for a
faith.
second?
And in
Right
there,
here? Now you're using saucer. Oh.
Right pretty good. It's easy to hold, you know. So you're going to switch it around and then swap it.
I was a subscriber to it, and they carry some of them were.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
I'll talk to you on that.
I don't know.
Okay, real good.
My good friend, oh, yes, it is.
Bob Warner? Gardner. Oh, Bob Gardner. Oh, I know him. Oh, yeah.
I've known him for 10, 12 years.
I know Bob Gardner.
I would appreciate it if you'd send me that report. I'd very much.
Let me put down here.
Okay.
This report, just a writing of this.
It's a mimeograph copy.
Thanks very much.
You bet you enjoyed it.
Not for those if we were into it.
I got about 15 left.
If I were to send you a stamp, talking about them, could I ask you a question?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
couldn't get it before and I was so hungry I had to go eat and come back now.
Where did you go eat?
Over at Sam's house. Was there any mention of animal life or plant life or anything of that sort?
What about them living here? Because they look just like us. They could do, I mean, they could be all over the place.
Good friend Steele, he's trying to help us out.
They made no mention of plant life or anything, how they lived other than what I told you here.
No form of government except you said they all lived as one.
That was his final comment in that one sentence he said in the consultation room.
Was there any use of color inside the spacecraft?
No.
Everything was just all...
It wasn't just blah. I mean, it was something you don't come in contact with every day. I mean...
like grays or...
It was a beautiful color, but it wasn't in colors as we see colors. It was something that you could stand and look at all day because you know it's something that's out of this world. It didn't have any outstanding colors like her dress, for instance, or my black pants.
Well, was it all uniform color, all the same
Quite
all the way
uniform.
without, and the clothing was the same way,
Mhm.
all one.
But this could have been for a reason because they might have wanted to do this on their first contact with me. If they come again, though, I'm going to try to take pictures and show what they look like in color. I'm a photographer, too, you know.
Where and when are you showing those pictures that you were saying you
I'll
had
have not only
pictures
those,
of
but I'll have lots of pictures ready in about 2 months. Lots of pictures.
Well, where would you get those pictures from?
Oh, I've got them all kinds of sources.
Oh, you mean some of these other reports that
Oh,
have
yes.
come in? Did you ever see that Encyclopedia Britannica report?
No.
We have it at home, or did have it. And it gave a report on all of them, you know, and it explained them away and tried to disprove all of them, but they got down to a certain percent that they absolutely could not disprove in any way. They could neither prove nor disprove. But of course that was put out about 4 or 5 years ago, 4 years ago, I think.
Capital S on
You don't need it. Just don't worry, the mailman, every day, that high.
Is it capital S on the
Yes, it's 3 different words.
Yeah, but, okay.
They'll come next week.
Well, I think if they contact me again where I can go on that craft, I'll know it ahead of time. I won't be just be a surprise like that. So I will get a chance to ask him if I can take a camp. And if he says yes, I'm going to take a camp. And not only that, I'm going to take about 20 rolls of film.
You ought to get some proof.
This is what I'm going to do the next time.
Oh, I believe you. You got to have proof, man.
That's just
Material proof.
I've got material proof.
Did anybody else see that? Brad?
Oh, other people saw it, but I'm not going to give those reports because to me, I don't want to follow them up. I don't want people to think I'm chasing this down to
Would you
corroborate my
state
story.
what kind of physical proof?
My feeling, for instance. I've never felt better.
Yeah.
In other words, I know their presence now, which I never knew before. I couldn't have got it any other way, I know.
They could be here. I mean, walking the street.
Oh, sure. One of them might have been in this room tonight, but I didn't spot him.
I mean,
I didn't look either.
that's what I mean. They're just like
So you
us, you
didn't
know.
state one way or another whether they were or were not Americans?
No, he didn't. I don't think they'd tell us if they are. For from the standpoint, if he told me that, I'd be out looking for it every day. Now, I think, well, I mean, anybody would. What if I told you, he stood there and said, well, I'll be back on this earth tomorrow, but I'm not going to tell you where I'll be. If I told that, everybody would be out here looking for him. Now, isn't that natural? So why would he tell me from that standpoint? If he told me, you doggone right I'd be looking for him. I'd try to take him out for a walk on the beach and learn a lot more about his life. I certainly would. Do you want a copy of the report?
I like one of these.
Let me put down here.
What is that report? And so, do you want an 8 by 10 envelope, or will a legal size letter envelope take?
I can put it in a letter, but it takes about 15 cents to send it.
About 15 cents.
But don't worry about that.
Well, no, because
I'm going broke anyway. I live in make matters worse.
What is this report?
Well, this is my original I had written up. And I just had some mimeograph copies made of it.
Oh, I see.
See, this is the actual one that the Air Force took. I mean, it's this almost the same wording. I gave it to them on tape, and also they took it and had it typed up in their own way. I mean, they changed it around a little bit here and there, but I don't want their version of it. I want my version, because their version is what happened. The Air Force clamped you up. Did they try to clamp me up?
Were there certain things they forbid you to disclose?
They didn't forbid, but they asked me certain things not to mention. They can't tell me not to tell them. Because
They ask you not to.
They asked me not to, from the standpoint that it might create a lot of misunderstanding and fear.
Misunderstanding of with who, about whom?
Mostly about the Air Force. Where do you want me to sign it?
Across the bottom.
Oh. Can I sign it? Just Sid or Sidney?
Sid will do fine.
I don't like Sidney.
That's pretty good for her to take notes on.
Pretty good. You asked me a question. I want to tell you something. You know what time of night I was born? 2 o'clock in the morning. That's a fact. I looked at I had my wife pull my birth certificate out the other day, and I was darn if it didn't show. 2 o'clock in the morning.
You're not going to wait 10 years?
2 of my boys were born at 2 o'clock in the morning. 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock is my hour. I better get rolling before 2 o'clock. You asked a question that I never did answer.
I was interested in the proposal. This is me. I didn't have a call card written with the call cards at home or someplace.
You like Joe Jennings' info on inertia?
No, New Zealand.
Oh, New Zealand Institute. Oh. Do you know Jennings?
Yeah.
You know him personally?
Well, not real well.
Well, he only lives about as far here other than a lot down there from me, you know. This craft landed between his house and my house.
Oh, I'll be down.
You didn't know that, did you? Almost line of sight, by the way. He lives out here, and I live here, and that craft landed right there. Just about midway between.
I'd be interested in knowing when you're going to bring up some more
About 2 months. I want to have the pictures all ready by then. But I want to tell you something. Joe Jennings was one of the first to come down and talk to me about that. He was one of the first to ask me to come up and talk to him. He had a group of people there that were all scientists.
He comes up with some of his doggone.
These are
I'd like to
characters.
hear his inertia ideas.
He offered me to go to work with him if I would work on this propulsion project that he would set up for me. I might do it. I think it can be done. But I don't know when I can do it.
Yeah, I've got a lot of stuff on paper that I'd like to find time to work on too.
I've got a project I'm working on. I've been working on 20 years too. And it's going to work too. And when I get that done, it'll be within 4 years. And you won't believe what you're seeing. You won't believe what you're seeing.
I've got a lot of doggone things that when you boil it right down, it's just common stuff that we already know about. All you gotta do is put it into play the right way. When are you usually at home?
Sometimes I'm home on Monday and Tuesday and going all the rest of the time. Sometimes I'm home on Sunday and Saturday, Sunday and going all the rest of the time. Well, you mean like if you want to come by or something? Oh, the message is call ahead of time. I never know when I'll be home. I was in Los Angeles last week, and I can tell you, though, I only stayed down there as long as I had to. I got back home as fast as I could.
Joe is hard to find those trees always running around.
I'll tell you how you can catch him. I got a standing invitation to go to his house every Tuesday night. So come down on a Tuesday night, and I'll take you up there. No, Joe, I'll tell you, even though he's worth about $15 million today, it doesn't affect him one iota. He's just as natural as anybody that I ever meet. He'll walk in my house and sit down and talk, and you never know, unless you know him, he has the background he's got. He'll never discuss his background or his financial living with anybody. You have to know.